Hey everyone, I'm Steph,
And I'm Megan.
and welcome to another episode of Late Night Reads.
This week, we are diving into the magical world of romantasy and covering The Primal of Blood and Bone by Jennifer Armentrout. There's so much to cover in this episode that literally we are having to break this up into two. So, this is our first of two episodes on this entire book because it's just going to be insane. We're going to cover everything from the very beginning of the book through chapter 32 on this episode. And, oh boy, howdy. Settle on in. It's going to be good.
It's gonna be good. So let's get started with why we selected The Primal of Blood and Bone. This is one of our most anticipated reads of the entire year. We have been anxiously waiting to find out the next piece of Poppy and Castille's story, and this book does not disappoint. We also have theorized for so long, for so many books, that Castile was more than just so long an elemental Atlantean. And so to see that all come out was so fucking amazing. We know that some readers didn't love his behavior in this book, but for us, it felt like the entire series has been building towards it if you have paid close attention, especially to his POVs in The War of Two Queens and A Soul of Ash and Blood. This man has some deep-rooted trauma that he has never dealt with. He needs some therapy. And he's been very clear the only thing that changed his life was Poppy. So you take her away and the Dark One is back. Much more unhinged now that he knows true love.
Ooh, so good.
So good. And we also had to know how many of our unhinged theories turned out to be true. It was really rewarding to scream "I knew it" while reading. And we might have some even more unhinged ones to share. More to come on those later. We'll be diving into theories on episode 2. Plus, we have been waiting to see Poppy, Castile, Sarah, and Niktos together. And while we don't get a scene with all 4 of them in the same place yet, we're hoping that's in the next book. We did love seeing how Poppy interacted with her grandmother for the first time ever. And we're here for any scene that has Etties in it. Any. And all.
Yes. So great. And here are a few things that you should know about the author Jennifer Armentrout. First, she is a New York Times best-selling author and writes young adult, paranormal, science fiction, fantasy, and contemporary romance. We would definitely consider the Flesh and Fire and Blood and Ash series to be an adult romantasy based on its adult content, which we are here for. Give me that spice. Give me the joining. We're all about that, for sure. But Miss Armentrout also has a full house herself. She's got a husband, a dog, multiple alpacas, goats, and sheep, which is really fun. And fun fact, she was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, which was a group of rare genetic disorders that basically involve a breakdown of and death of the cells in the retina, which will eventually result in loss of vision. So she is very passionate about educating people on the varying degrees of blindness. And again, just a big kudos to her for everything that she does despite all of this.
So before we jump into discussing the book, a couple of key reminders. This episode will contain spoilers. We are assuming if you were...
Flash it on the page. Spoiler.
So many spoilers. If you were listening, you have read this book. You have read all of the previous books in the Blood and Ash series. And you've read the Flesh and Fire series. You have been warned because we are talking about all of them. You do not need to have read The Fall of Ruin and Wrath. There will be a couple of mentions, predominantly, and a little bit in this episode, and specifically in the second episode of the book where we'll mention it, but we will be covering that book separately later. And as all books in this series, there are a number of topics that will be sensitive for some readers, and we will talk about them. Animal abuse or death, anxiety, assault, blood, child death, regular death, depression, emotional abuse, fire, murder, PTSD, sexual assault, sexual harassment, stalking, which I think anything Colas does is stalking, suicide, torture, and violence.
Again, long list. Pretty much just hit the check all the above.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So,
but now let's talk tropes. So, first up, and one of the best ones, is royalty, of course. Poppy and Castile are the queen and king of Atlantia. And also Solus, I guess? Yeah, I would say they are. I mean, so. Down with the blood crown. Yeah, it's them. So they are royalty, king and queen, ruling the world, ruling the realm. Love it. Next, we have Touch Her and Die. Of course, we know Castile will literally burn down the world for Poppy, and kind of pretty much does at the end of the book. So Kieran also is willing to lay down his life for her, but he's a bit more calmer about it. He's like, maybe we have a think. Maybe we, but still willing to. Loves her endlessly. And then we have Ates. He is definitely willing to sacrifice anything to protect Poppy and does so multiple times in this book. And then I'd also say, Poppy in an opposite side of like touch him and die, you touch her men, she will go after you. Then we have fated mates. As we know, Castile and Poppy are heartmates. And they also have the blessing of the marriage imprint. Or at least they did. Bum, bum, bum. More to come on what we think is going on with Castile not being able to see his imprint very well at the end of the book. Next, we have the Chosen One. So we have not one, but 3 primal gods. Sorry, correction. Dominion primal gods. Pretty much like the badass of the badass primal gods. And one of them happens to be the primal of blood and bone. And then another one is the primal of death and destruction. Like literally this whole entire time, that prophecy was about both of them. And it's like, how do you get more chosen than that? That's like literally like your name is pretty much written in the stars. It's there. I always so wonder what in the world Kieran's primal name is going to be.
Right?
Theories at the end. Then we have found family. There are so many layers of found family in this book. Like obviously we have the people who have become like family to Poppy and Castile, which are the members of their shadow council. And then we also have the biological members of Poppy's family that include Nyktos and Sarah and Iris. And Poppy gets to kind of quasi meet them in this book, or at least learn more about them. And then we have, of course, Castile's family that turns to be very, very interesting. So very fun. Then last but not least, we have secrets. Literally one of the biggest tensions in this book is because of that secret of Poppy keeping from Castile that she had asked Kieran to put her in the ground if she ever became a threat to others. And it just starts to really unravel the entire time that Castile's like self-esteem is just like going downhill. He's just thinking like, does she really love me? Does she really trust me? Like so much questioning about their relationship and about himself. And it's not just that one secret. There are a lot of secrets that all the characters are kind of keeping from each other that eventually just play a major role in this book or will likely play a huge role in the next one. So secrets are no fun unless they're shared with everyone. So I tell my kids.
They're also really great in books.
But they're really great in books. Yes.
All right. In terms of every magical twist, we've got a lot to cover. So buckle up, Buttercup. So the first chapter in this book isn't numbered and has the title of the Primal. And we've seen a similar approach in 3 chapters in Born of Blood and Ash, as well as the entire book in Visions of Flesh and Blood. Why does that matter? Because we are theorizing that every titled chapter that you've seen across both series is actually written by an ancient. So if their POV is in a titled chapter, then we can assume that character is an ancient. So we're looking at you, Miss Willa, Poppy, and Castile. That was not done just randomly, everyone. There was something very intentional about it. So Poppy is still in stasis in this first chapter and seems to be experiencing similar visions to Sarah when she ascended to the primal of life and went through stasis afterwards. So Poppy can see how these ancients are created from raw energy, which is really weird if you think about it.
Yeah. Just don't think too hard about it. You're just going to be confused. Be like, wait, what?
It's like really cool, but also kind of really weird that like you're just born out of raw energy. So, and then how the 10 ancients were desperate to ensure the balance of power. And you know how much we love the fucking balance. No, 0 out of 10, do not recommend the balance. And the beginning of the end that started with the true primal of life, who we are believing is Ethos. And when Ethos created beings, he gave them free will, which led to choice and emotion. Poppy also comments how she understands, which I think is a really interesting word choice. We're going to talk a lot about word choices that Jennifer Armentrout used in this book, because I think they have some interesting meanings. And what the ancients could not, that while primals were unbalanced by emotions, so were the ancients. So think about this for a second. The ancients are like, emotions are bad, we've got to ensure the balance. Also, while the ancients have emotions and I don't know, make questionable choices. Hmm, interesting. And everything that was done to prevent what was coming actually ensured that it would. I feel like that's a life lesson. Like sometimes you try and prevent things, and in fact, you have made the situation worse. That's what they've done.
Yes.
It's also very interesting that she mentions without the capability to love and hate, rejoice and mourn, gain and lose, there could be no balance. For every hardship, there must be prosperity. Hate could not exist without love. There could be no joy without knowing grief. And I think that's a very true like life statement, right? Like how do you know what love is if you don't know what hate is? Like the complete opposite of it. So I'm kind of like ancients. If there is no emotion, how does that work? Are we like robots?
Because
Like do we just go around doing nothing
everyone's just like apathetic towards everything. Like,
about all the time?
I guess.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, no, thank you. And then additionally, Poppy then mentions seeing she, the first chosen to fail, who was the true primal of life, and what the union of between the bringer of life and the bringer of bone would unleash. Okay, so what does that mean in terms of the prophecy? So, one of the most important things to remember about the prophecy is that its meaning can change as we learn more information. So, not even the ancients truly understand the full prophecy, which is kind of why it seems to evolve so much throughout the series, because there are just many different meanings and paths that can go down, basically. And Miss Willa, our favorite little lady, specifically mentions this in Visions of Flesh and Blood when she breaks down her current understanding of the prophecy. So, in our opinion, we believe this vision kind of confirms that the first chosen to fail was, in fact, Sarah, not Millicent. So, that could likely mean that the prophecy of the first and second daughters are actually then referring to Sarah and Poppy. Again, not Millicent and Poppy. So then we also have the union between the bringer of life and the bringer of bone. Multiple ways to dissect this one. It could be referring to the union between Poppy and Castile, since we do know that Poppy is a true primal of life and death, and Castile then becomes the primal of death and destruction. But it could also be referring to the joining, and that's tied to Kieran and Castile. So there's kind of multiple mentions throughout the book about the impact of the union between Castile and Poppy, or their heartmate connection that it could have on the realms. So it just most likely has to do with the two of them, is what we're assuming. So now Poppy can hear his voice, which is referring to Castile while she's in stasis, and she can hear some of these stories that he's been telling her while she sleeps. However, during all this, she also has intense searing pain going on that she is internally fighting. So she's like, I can hear it, but just like there's a battle going on, like literally.
Literally a battle in her head.
Yeah.
So in the Primal chapter, we also get a POV from Castile, and that picks up immediately after the end of A Soul of Ash and Blood, where he killed that revenant that snuck into the room and tried to attack Poppy. I know there's lots of theories that people think in this book too, that Castile died when the revenant stabbed him. I disagree with that fundamentally. We'll talk about it in theories in the second episode, but like Hill I'm willing to die on. But let's dive into what happens with Castile and Kieran. So they're still in the room while Poppy's in stasis. There's just like, I imagined, this is not a good depiction of it, but this is my brain. I thought of like if you had a Transformer Lego and your kid smashed it and there were Lego pieces everywhere. That's how I imagined this revenant. He's just like everywhere. Like you can't really walk places without stepping on it. It's just gross. No one wants to clean it up.
I pictured it like my dog got a hold of like a stuffy or something, and there's just like fluff and just like
Everywhere.
remnants of everything.
And it's like you're still finding it like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
You're like, oh, that's yeah, remnant of a revenant. There you go.
So everything starts to rumble and crack. It's formed with a silver light. Everything's like just really crazy. We see a circle with an overlapping pointed cross appearing, and it's an old Atlantean symbol, two of them meaning life and death or blood and bone. This is like the first mention we get of like these things tied back to Atlantia. So I just want to point that out there because we'll talk about it later, because I think there's some bigger connections that maybe people haven't jumped to yet. So ether also starts to illuminate Poppy's skin because maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's just primal glow, as you've heard us say. Is there like a facial for that? Because that would be really great.
Right. Can I get a little ether powder, please? I just want a little shimmer and shine.
I just want to glow.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that she's waking up and they're praying that she'll recognize herself because that's their big worry, right? Because they've been told it's possible she'll wake up and not know who she is. And then Castile smells fresh lilacs, beautiful, son of life. And then he smells dead lilacs, death, not great. And then power seems to fill the chamber. And then there's these strands of ether flowing into Castile and Kieran. And the power feels unending and inescapable, old, inevitable. And Castile can sense it's changing every part of him. So this is the first time we see in this book that the start of these powers coming into Castile that have been within his bloodline and in him this entire time. And then he sees this primal mist coming from Kieran in silver and gold, and the mist from him is in shadows and crimson. And then we go into chapter 1, which is in Castile's POV. Poppy's still in stasis, and apparently him and Kieran went unconscious for like about a day. That sounds really great. I could use like a day to just like rot and rest and sleep and just
Don't bother me. I'm in stasis.
I'm in stasis for a day. That sounds great, to be honest.
That's amazing.
Like no
Please
one
sign me
bothers
up.
you.
Love it.
I love it. So that rest seems very similar to what we've seen in the Flesh and Fire series after a new primal ascends. And we know that the timing of that stasis can be very dependent upon kind of like where they're at, etc. And then he also mentions feeling this like surge of energy in his veins, this primal essence, and how he's always felt it on some level. Once again, we are seeing another reference to what happens at the end of the book, along with that ancient pattern that's going to happen on Castile. And that's what I mean by like, if you've been paying attention to specifically Castile and what he says and what he thinks that we got in the War of Two Queens, A Soul of Ash and Blood, and this book, Jennifer Armentrout has laid so many beautiful breadcrumbs that show us where we're going. We may not want to go there. Like, we don't want to see him become the primal of death and destruction and where he's at the end of the book, but also, like, that's where it's been headed this entire time. And so this is just another thing that he knows that there's something deeper inside him. And it's not just his cocky attitude, right?
Although we love that too.
We do love that.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. And then we have Kieran and Castile, waking up and thinking that all of this just happened because of the joining. So, Kieran or Castile knows that he wasn't only an elemental Atlantean anymore. He had this feeling like there's more to me now. Like, it's interesting. And Kieran also says, I'm more than just a wolven. Like, it has to be something else that just like happened with them, and they notice it. But Castile doesn't think that he's a false primal, like the Revenant mentioned, because the essence he now feels is just way too powerful. It was cold, infinite, and ancient.
With a capital
right
A.
Yes. So he also mentions that the essence that went into him and into Kieran wasn't the same. Again, indicating that maybe one of them got the life, we're thinking Kieran, obviously, and death, Castile. And then after waking up, Castile can also pick up Kieran's whereabouts again, which had kind of previously stopped after Poppy ascended. And now, fun fact, he can talk telepathically to Kieran, which is like a whole other thing that they're like, whoa, we can chat. This is fun. It's like, welcome to the group chat kind of a thing inside my brain. Yeah. And so while we do agree that the joining did have an impact on basically what happens with Castile and Kieran, we also strongly believe that Castile was destined to become a primal regardless of the joining. So basically Kieran gets to just like join along for the ride, which is nice. But the joining may have also sped up this entire process and his abilities to then use his powers faster than a typical primal. So thank you for the joining for that. And then next up, we have Hysa, Delano, and Kieran come into the room to tell Castile about multiple ascended deaths and that he needs to come and check this out for himself because they're like, it's weird. Like, we can't even describe it. You got to come check it out. And Castile honestly is very adamant that he's not going to leave Poppy's side until Kieran has everyone leave the room. And then he's like, we need to have a direct and honest conversation about basically Castile needing to step up and be the king, like pull your shit together. Otherwise, you're just going to be mad at yourself later. And like, you're going to be mad that you're like shirking on all of your duties. Like, fuck this. Go do your job. And Kieran also mentions how he doesn't want to leave Poppy's side or Castile's. He's like, but I'm doing it for the kingdom. So I'm like, okay, good job, Kieran. You're doing the right thing. And again, this is one of the examples where Kieran is holding his emotions back and not necessarily doing what he wants, but he's doing what's best for the kingdom. Kind of a true leader. Makes you wonder what impact that might have on his character in the next book. Because Kieran definitely like just wants to keep the two of them in line. He's like, guys, I don't want to babysit you, but just like get your shit together. And then we also get some interesting thoughts from Castile about he is a king, like whether he wants to be or not. So kind of feels again like a little breadcrumb because we know from Holland and Born of Blood and Ash that people who don't want power can't be corrupted. And that Sarah and her entire bloodline are destined to be this way and designed to be that way. But does this mean for Castile, he's eventually going to be able to pull himself out of the dark hole at the end of the book? Or is he going to fall victim to it?
I
Don't
hope
know.
not. I hope he can.
I hope not. Yeah.
Okay. So Castile does leave to go to the homes of these dead ascended, and it's an interesting experience. We learn a lot. So we get to see Emil, and you know how much we love Emil and Castile. They're like, something's off, but we can't really tell you what it is. Let's just continue riding through the city. Sounds like a great choice. Our favorite draken, Reaver, does a flyby, scaring the shit out of everyone.
Beaver butt.
I love Reaver butt. Specifically Emil. I feel like Emil needs to have the shit scared out of him a couple times. And
He does. He's a little cocky.
he's a little cocky. And probably everyone in town, like the people of Solus are not used to seeing drakens flying around all the time. And I also feel like Reaver's the kind, if you see like the flybys of the airport towers, like I feel like that's what he does. It's like he's gonna get like really close to you where you're pretty sure he's gonna hit your house or hit you. And then it's like just the wind in your face. No big deal. Just typical, Wednesday. So all the light bulbs have blown out, both inside and outside of the house. Castile notices that the house has a sweet yet stale scent. How you want every house to be described. And the stale scent gets stronger as you get close to the bodies of the ascended. Great. And then one of the Wolven, Sage, has this odd behavior once in the home and doesn't follow them. Almost like the Wolven can sense something isn't right. And we see that again later in the book. And it makes me question, like, what all can the Wolven sense in this kind of like new world where Poppy is both the primal of life and death, and we still have Sarah as the true primal of life, and we have Colas. Like, I think there's more to the Wolven that we haven't figured out yet. So the Ascended have been drained of all of their blood, but they're in positions that would indicate they didn't struggle or see it coming. And they have these two small puncture wounds on their neck, and it's the only wounds on their body. As we learned later in the book, this makes me so disgusted. Colas fed from Poppy numerous times throughout her life without her knowledge when he was masquerading as an Ascended, such as Duke Tierman. And these small puncture wounds likely wouldn't have been noticeable by her, which is how, like, she had no idea it was happening. If you think about it, right? Like, they wouldn't have looked for these wounds unless the Ascended were dead and sucked all out of all their blood. So, like, she could have these tiny little puncture wounds somewhere on her and not see it at all. And then supposedly the Ascended were on this lockdown with guards watching, meaning no one came into their home when this happened. They would have died in the last 10 to 12 hours. Great.
But most importantly, yeah, because of that, they haven't turned into cravens either. So it's like if their blood was completely drained and their heart and their head is not destroyed, then normally they would have like turned into cravens. So they're all just like, oh my God, this is very unusual. Like,
But also glad that they're not cravens.
Oh yeah, very glad they're not cravens. Yes, for sure. And Castile also notices like there's also some dead birds. He's like, that's okay, weird. Like initially you're like, okay, I don't think too much about the dead bird situation, but except in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's like the canary in the mine, like there's a dead bird, there's something bad going on. And so again, now we have to wonder, is there more to that now with the ravens because how they behave with Castile? So it's like, is Castile perhaps killing those birds when he walks in or sucks the energy out? I don't know. That's a stretch, possibly. But it's also tied to Colas, obviously. So we also then get to see Castile starting to sense people's emotions. He mentions there how Emil has a tart taste of like confusion when he sees that the Ascended were actually readers. He's like, some of them were reading, they had a whole library, and Emil's very confused by this. Because Emil hasn't thought of them as having like a normal, like human-ish like lifestyle before and having hobbies. Like he's only ever thought of them as monsters. Like these people don't read, they just go out and kill people. And it's like, oh, wow, that's different. So it's kind of the first step in Emil's changing perspective now about the Ascended. especially when it comes to maybe allowing them to potentially live among everyone else, known as an unbound, which is when they don't feed. So, this house, as they're looking around, also doesn't have any blood reserves that are typically found in a home of an ascended, and again makes us question if these ascended were already members of the unbound. Most likely, yes. And fun thing, this house has a painting of the Sun Temple in it. So I feel like that's going to come back later. And then Emil makes a comment about how it's like a spirit entered the home, and that's when Castile realized it's Colas. It has to be Colas. Because how else could this happen? Like everybody
Fucking
was here
Colas.
watching, no one came and went. Yeah. Just like a little like shadow, like cruising in and like biting people. And you're like, ew,
But not a
no
good
thank you.
shadow daddy.
Not a good shadow. No, bad, bad. And then when Castile goes to leave the house, he notices the urn outside of the house isn't empty. It's just filled with gray blooms and leaves. And then he notices again, all of the grass around that house is completely dead too. And again, he's like, that's got to be Colas. He sucks the life out of everything, like not just people, but like any living thing. And then Castile immediately orders Heisa to have his father, Lord Sven, and General Dameron to secure the Ascended and make sure nothing enters or leaves the Shadow Temple, because he's starting to click it together.
So when Castile gets back to Wayfire Castle, Reaver comes to see him, and Castile immediately brings up the possibility that these deaths are tied to Colas because of the smell, the gray plants, and how they occurred. And Reaver's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Colas is nearby. Otherwise, Isbitch wouldn't have like acted the way she did in the Bone Temple. However, Reaver can't and the other Drakens can't sense him. But Reaver isn't sure if he would be able to sense him if Colas isn't fully restored. And I'm like, thank you for not being helpful, Reaver. Thank you.
Yes.
I mean,
Useless
he's probably
information.
correct. It's like, yeah, I think he's probably around. Great. Thank you. But then we get a very interesting comment from Reaver about a primal soul that we're convinced is a major breadcrumb that hasn't fully played out yet, or at least not been confirmed. So, with the whole context of this book, right, we learn that the essence of any primal is the primal soul, or its Aurelius, which is different than the soul of a god or mortal. It has a form, shape, or shadow. It can solidify for short periods of time, and that could definitely mean that Colas could solidify with fangs for a short period of time to cause the deaths of the Ascended, right? Like that was like kind of our thought when we first read these chapters before we had the whole book. But Reaver also shares that a primal soul can enter the vessel at the very moment the soul leaves the body, and that vessel would need to possess similar embers as those carried with the primal soul. So, and how Reaver's like, I mean, I don't know if it's ever been attempted or been successful. Great. And then that's also when they realize that Isbitch was likely planning to use Malik for the vessel for Colas' soul and never intended to sacrifice Poppy. And if she had been successful, then Colas would have become Malik for a short period of time. Not great for him at all. Also, Reaver thought that's what Isbitch could have been trying to accomplish in the Bone Temple, but he didn't think it was important to mention it to anyone. And so
Thanks so
I'm now,
much.
thanks so much, Reaver. Super helpful. So I am really starting to question why Reaver and the other Drakens aren't fully open. With Poppy and Castile, we also saw this with Sarah in the Flesh and Fire series. Are they naturally vague and enjoy telling people that they're unwise? Like, is that what that gets them off, right? Like, I like this. Or are they somehow prevented from saying certain things like the fates, right? Is there
That's what I
something
think.
else tied to it?
I think that's the case. Yeah.
And the other thing I want to point out about this whole primal soul situation is as the book continues, it becomes really clear that it's not Colas's primal soul that's doing things, it's his will, right? Like they're very specific about that. So why were we told about this primal soul concept? I know it makes sense with the whole Isbitch Bone Temple situation, but I think there's way, way more to it. And we'll talk about it when we get to theories in the next episode, but I think it's an important thing to remember.
Sure.
And yes, the
And
theory is
also, like,
unhinged.
it's always unhinged. I love it. I also thought of like, do you remember that scene in like The Prince of Egypt when like all the firstborn sons like they die? And like there's like a scene where like literally there's like a little boy is like walking into like a house and then like a shadow comes in and then you see just like the little boy's like arm falls out with like an apple and like you know his like he's like dead. That's what I imagine the Colas being like. He like comes in his little shadow, just like takes the soul or like takes the blood or whatever and just like
Blood.
leaves. And then they're just like a drained husk. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Anyway,
about the
that's
darkness from
kind of,
Twitches.
yes. Ooh,
See?
yeah, that's
Like the
good. There
darkness,
you
just like
go. See, you watch movies. Sort of.
with my children.
Twitches.
I don't know if
Yeah.
Twitches counts as like great cinema,
Sister, sister. I know,
but
whatever, it's fine.
We
Okay,
do watch Twitches around this time of year.
of course, naturally. Okay, so now we learn here that Nektas has not been seen since Poppy went into stasis, right? He's still in the Elysium after taking Iris back there. And now, since the gods are awakening, because all hell's breaking loose, literally, he is now guarding Sarah and Nyktos. And then Reaver makes an interesting comment here that while Poppy is the Lisa of the Draken, that doesn't necessarily apply to Nektas. And Sarah and Nyktos and their sons are family, so their bond naturally is going to be greater than magic, which is a lot of interesting talk about magic now in this. And we also see this mentioned a few times in the book, making us question if something will occur, maybe in the next book, where Nektas and Reaver have to choose between Nyktos and Sarah versus Poppy. Like, that's going to be an interesting, like, internal struggle or just like battle of the will. So we'll see. And then Reaver is actually now back in the mortal realm because of Jadis. He located her a couple of days ago in the Willow Plains, and she was entombed in a stone. And kind of similar to how like Nektas was when Poppy first went to Elysium and like touched him, was able to wake him. But like Jadis is in like a much worse state. And according to Reaver, the act of self-entombment is so unheard of because it leaves the Draken vulnerable. So something super drastic and just awful must have happened to cause Jadis to do this. But Reaver is hopeful that maybe Poppy can just wake Jadis up like she did Nektas. But you know, normally Reaver is like a really laid back Draken. However, when it comes to like Jadis, we see very strong emotions about him. Like he is very much like, I need your help with Jadis now. Making us wonder, is there more to that relationship than we knew before? Like, do you love Jadis? Or is she
Do
like
you?
your soulmate, your Draken mate? Think
We've
so.
got questions.
But he's like distraught. He's
He's
distraught.
very
He wants
distraught.
Jadis. Yeah.
I want baby Jadis. I know she's not a baby Draken
Jadis.
anymore right now, but like also.
Still.
So Castile also asked Reaver why Isbitch needed Poppy at the Bone Temple, not understanding what Poppy has to do with Colas. And I just remember reading this being like, oh, sweet Castile. Like,
You're so pretty. You're
you're
so
so
pretty.
pretty. Like, I'm so worried for you when you find out the truth. And
Yeah,
Castile
I'd be
wonders
there.
if it's because Isbitch knew Poppy could end Colas. And Reaver's like, possibly, and won't say anything more. And then Castile's like, Reaver knows more, but like doesn't want Castile to know it. And in Reaver's defense, would you want to tell Castile that his wife is Colas's obsession reborn and he will stop at nothing to have her? No. No. 0 out of 10.
Don't want to be the
Do
bearer
not
of
want
that
that
bad
job.
news. You'd be like, do not kill the messenger, please, because you will.
Right? So we don't want to deliver that message, but it also makes me like this is another instance very early on in the book where it makes me question like if Reaver is actually prohibited from saying it, especially since we believe there have been consequences for Sarah after she told Poppy that she was Satoria reborn. So the next chapter is the Primal again. We're back in Poppy's POV. We learn a ton of stuff. There is darkness, this super creepy voice that we know is Colas saying, I've been with you since birth. With your first breath, you woke me. Ugh, gross. So
Ugh.
we know it's Colas. We know he's fucking with her mind, which is one of our theories that we had prior to this book, is that he would definitely fuck with Poppy's mind. I'm very curious if he's been doing it with other people, which we'll talk about later. And these whispers cause like a hot acidic sensation within Poppy. And I'm pointing that out because I think it's really important anytime they mention sensations or smells to see when else that's mentioned for other characters in the book. Poppy also realizes that some part of her knows this person, pities him, fears him, loathes him. I do not pity Colas at all. Fucking hate Colas. That's a better description. And while Poppy never really seems to have significant memories about being a Satoria, minus these like few glimpses that she has of people and locations while she's in stasis. It makes me wonder if some of these memories from Satoria's past will start to come back in the next book, right? If like
I think
somehow
so.
they're going to start getting unlocked, right? And
Like
then
deja vu
Poppy,
moments.
exactly. But then knowing that she's Satoria reborn, like she knows they're not deja vu. And we've talked a lot about deja vu and who's had other deja vu moments in previous books, which is Castile. So then Poppy is taken through some terrifying memories that she and Satoria have, starting with being held in the gold cage.
Don't love that.
Don't love
And
that.
then, while she's in that gold cage, Colas calls her Solus and says he can help her if she just lets him in. And he questions how much longer she can hold out. And Poppy, meanwhile, is in incredible pain, feels like she's dying. And that should have just literally been our first clue to all of us that Colas doesn't love Satoria anymore and only wants to get the primal of life and death embers from her. He's just doing whatever he can at this point. There's no love left in him. And then next, Poppy sees the night of the Craven attack in her visions. And she's forced again to wear the veil in Wayfair Castle, being abused by Dirk Tierman, watching Victor die, being held by the bolt, and then receiving Castell's finger, and more. Just like all of these terrible things from her past are just like flashing as visions in front of her while she's in stasis. And meanwhile, Colas, the entire time, keeps promising that he can remove all this fear and pain if she just lets him in. He's like, this thing, you didn't like that, right? You didn't like it when Duke Tierman did this. I can take that pain away. I can do that for you. Which I'm like, this is like pure evil going inside people's heads when they're like depressed. Like if someone's
Yes.
thinking, I feel like about like suicide or something, and they're just like, that'll make everything go away. Like that'll make all the pain go away if I just give in. It's like, no, don't do that. You are valued. You do not do that. Okay. And again, this is our first breadcrumb for when Colas uses that same power to have various mortals kill themselves later in the book. Just don't listen to Colas, everybody. Don't listen to him. Silencio Colas. And then Poppy, fights back and says, never. Like, I'm never going to listen to you. I'm never going to let you in. And then Colas says he never needed her permission. And then Poppy feels ungodly pain. Again, a little breadcrumb about Colas feeding from her without her like consent or knowledge, because just another time when he just didn't need permission either way. And he just does what he wants. I'm like, that's like a rape of the soul, you know? Like, ugh, yuck. Fucking Colas. So then in the same chapter here, we get Castile's point of view. He and Kieran are watching Poppy sleep and, of course, worrying about when she's going to wake up. They talk about how hard it will be if Poppy doesn't remember them, obviously, and Kieran is worried that it's going to nearly kill Castile. While Castile worries it's going to be harder on Kieran because obviously Kieran would be worried about Poppy, but he's also not going to be worried about Castile. So again, breadcrumb here that Kieran's probably struggling a lot more than we initially think throughout this entire book, especially at the end. And additionally, Castile fills Kieran in on his theory that Colas could be behind the deaths of the Ascended, and we learn that Malik hasn't been seen for the last few days, and that Valen is demanding to speak with Castile, and there's multiple times now where Castile just refuses to see his father, making us wonder how much of that behavior at the end of the book is also tied to just guilt about his father's death, which, spoiler, we know that happens.
So Castile is awoken by Delano, and another thing that he has to come see. No big deal, but the sun is rising over the Stroud Sea where it normally sets. Yeah, that sounds like end of times. Not great.
It's weird. You're like, the sun normally comes up this way and down that way, and now it's reversed. That's bad.
That's bad. Not great. And also it's tied to the final line of the prophecy: "Beware, for the end will come from the west to destroy the east, and lay waste to all which lies between." Yeah. Yeah. So we know where Castile is headed. So the next two chapters, entitled The Primal, start in Poppy's POV, and she's starting to awaken. Things get really crazy from this point on. So Poppy struggles internally to know who she is. She knows what she is, that she's a primal, but I think she's still like, am I Poppy? She's like, am I Satoria? Right? Like she doesn't understand it. Is Colas is still in there? She does seem to know Castile's voice, and Kieran's name feels familiar to her, and she remembers vaguely about Castile talking to her and sharing memories while she was asleep, but she can't like fully remember them. And then she's also starving, and so she needs to feed right after she wakes up, similar to like we saw with Sarah. She opens her eyes. She knows that Castile is mine, and it hurts her to see his finger missing. It hurts us too. And then she has this innate sense warning her to keep her distance. She knows his power is similar to hers, but there's also more to it, an element that had been in the generations of those who carried his blood, something old, something infinite. Another breadcrumb that Castile is more than just a primal and that his lineage goes beyond Etes, and we'll talk more about that later. And then Poppy also sees these silvery bolts of essence laced with crimson in his eyes, death, and she doesn't have a great reaction to it, right? A deeply buried ancient instinct seizes her. I mean, I wouldn't be excited to see my husband looking like the primal of death when I was tortured by the primal of death in a previous life. It's not great. And then Poppy tries to get away from him, and he won't let her out of the room. It totally reminded me of like From Blood and Ash, A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. Someone's a little bit stabby. I love
But
it.
stabby. And Poppy starts hearing a voice telling her to get out before he grows even more powerful. Do it now. Do it before it's too late. You've always been weak and fragile. And okay, since we know that Colas is behind this voice, does it mean that Colas can sense that power within Castile? Not everything, really, since Colas is surprised by what he sees in Castile at the end of the book, but he does seem to recognize that there is more to Castile than is letting on. And it could also be another like kind of intimidation tactic here where Colas is trying to make Poppy fear Castile too, which I'm starting to wonder if if Colas was already like kind of like attached to Poppy when like right before like the Revenant stuff happened and he, maybe he was a part of splitting the two of like who got what power, you know? In the joining, like he's like maybe he purposefully made it so that Castile would be similar to Colas so that she would hate him.
Potentially.
Like he's trying to break them up. And what easier way to break them up than to make him look like him? So I think because you have to think like, is there a reason why the evil part went to Castile and not to Kieran?
But
Obviously, besides like
is
it
the
being,
primal of death evil? Or is Colas just evil?
I mean, Colas is just evil, obviously. But anyway, I think that was intentional swaying of Colas, perhaps too. Who knows? Maybe I don't know. That could be a little bit unhinged. Either
I
way,
love it. I love unhinged theories.
yes, yes. So you never know. But again, either way, Colas is trying to make Poppy fearful of Castile. So fun times. And then Castile is like, okay, like let's calm down, which that never works well. And he calls her princess and tells her that, like deep down, like, you know who I am and you know what we mean to each other. And her heart and soul do recognize the truth of his words. But then all of a sudden, her mind like goes like completely somewhere else and she visualizes Duke Tierman. And she sees herself dressed in all white as if she's back in the Vale. And he makes a comment about how white is the color of the untouched. But when were you ever truly untouched?
Ugh.
Gag. Fucking Duke Tierman. Hate this guy. But again, another breadcrumb about how Poppy was probably fed from her entire life and didn't even know about it. And honestly, probably sexually assaulted at some point by Duke Tierman. Because, like, later we find out she has no memory sometimes of what happens after she blacks out. Which I'm like, yeah, that's assault. You got assaulted for sure. Not cool. And what's also odd about this is like she's literally imagining Castile as Duke Tierman. Like she does not even see Castile in front of her anymore. Like he is Duke Tierman. There's like a weird like magical thing happening here. But she's very confused by this because she sees the missing finger and the marriage imprint. So she's like, you're Duke Tierman, but you're not Duke Tierman. Like I don't get it. What's going on? Again, it's just Colas fucking with her head.
So Poppy tries to fight her way out of the room some more. As usual, fighting turns both of them on, and Poppy starts to remember about Castile being the first to give her pleasure, her first everything. Kieran comes to the door, and Castile orders him not to come in, and Kieran can feel that Poppy is awake and wants to come in until Castile tells him, like, Poppy will make a run for it and attack him. And so this is, like, before they have any of that animosity about the secret coming out, right? And Kieran is already being kind of pushed aside a little bit, like before there's any of that information. And then Castile does convince Poppy to feed from him, and she starts seeing memories of the spicy scene on the ship between the two of them when he read Miss Willis' diary to him, and like she acted it out. And then surprisingly, Castile tells Poppy to behave, which I don't love. Castile, like, you usually don't want her to behave. This is very odd for you. But she does end up, I didn't notice this the first time when I reread it, is when I picked it up. She does end up grinding against him to give herself an orgasm, but like nothing else spicy
Uh-huh.
happens. So then finally,
Well,
Poppy
good for her.
remembers,
You know, she's like, I
like,
need this. I'm going to take what I need.
exactly. Finally, Poppy remembers herself and that she loves Castile. She knows that something's wrong with her and wants to tell him, but she can't. And then that crimson haze returns, clouding her thoughts, edging out her reasons. Then she starts feeding again and hears a voice telling her to keep taking until his heartbeat stops beating and she smells like stale lilacs. Fucking Colas. And then she knows that death isn't her nature, but she's not stopping or releasing her fangs, which is not going to be enjoyable for Castile.
And then we get chapter 3. We are in Castile's point of view now. And at this moment, Reaver has burst into the room. He can tell something is wrong. And he sees Poppy and he like throws her across, like off of him. And Castile is furious at Reaver, obviously, for throwing Poppy away. And he gave off some very strong Nitos vibes just then. He just like claws started coming out. Doesn't fully shift though. And there is some fighting that happens between him and Reaver because, again, how furious Castile is. Reaver tries to explain, like, there's something wrong with Poppy. Like, I can sense it. That's why I pulled her off of you. Like, she'll be fine. Like, physically, she'll be fine. But Castile can already start to feel this energy ramping up in the room and, like, has the smell of stale lilacs. Like, he's going berserk. And Poppy's eyes open a little bit, and they are now a multitude of colors, which is a change from when she first awakened after the Bone Temple, where they were just pure silver. So this is now another indication that Poppy is more than just a regular primal, okay? And Reaver tells Castile that Poppy is about to go full primal on him and could kill him because she is not the Poppy he knows anymore. And then Reaver also mentions regretting removing the chains from Castile. He's like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And Poppy seems to now snap out of it and snap out of him and just like whimpers. Just like, which probably breaks his heart too. And she apologizes to Castile for hurting him and starts to try to say, I love you, until she lets out a piercing scream. And she just seems like she's in incredible pain. And suddenly she's all scared of Castile. And he tries to pull her out of it again, but it's just like just on and off, on and off. Like she's her, now she's not her. Like, and she finally admits there's something wrong with me and tells Castile, like, it's not safe for you and you need to stay away from me because I'm not me right now and I don't know what's happening. And then Poppy does manage to get free from Castile. But again, she's reiterating, she's like, I don't want to hurt you. But if I get close to you, I'm probably going to kill you. And all of a sudden, these like crimson shadows, like sometimes appear, like will start happening like down her arms. And she just says, you can't stop me. And that's when Castile knows that this smile and this voice is not Poppy. It's like very like thready and like brittle, like dried bones, and like cold as the darkest cell. Like just like an evil Poppy saying like, you can't stop me. And then Castile almost gets hit by Ether. Yay. Poppy's like, I'm gonna kill you. And Reaver like saves him.
So then
Thank you,
Poppy's,
Reaver Butt.
thank you, Reaverbot. Taking one for the team. Poppy snaps out of it for a minute and tells Castile not to come any closer, and he is like struggling to listen in typical Castile fashion. Kieran bursts into the room, wants to know what's going on. Reaver tells them to both look at her. She doesn't look right. She smells like the stench of death. Castile's like, no, she's beautiful. And Kieran's like, well, I've smelled death on her before, but this isn't like what I've smelled before. And Reaver's like, the smell isn't coming from her. Like, because when he felt her awake, she wasn't the only thing he felt. He sensed Colas was near. And Reaver says that when Poppy spoke earlier, he could hear Colas. He's somehow inside her. Reaver mentions he's may have always been in her or connected to her. Another breadcrumb that Reaver knows way more than he lets on. And Kieran's like, no, I think she just needs blood. And Reaver is like about to lose his mind with the stupidity of the two of them. And
You
then
were unwise. You
you
were
were
unwise.
unwise. Like, so unwise. Castile
Like, I
senses
can't
that
tell you, but you were unwise.
correct. And Castile can like tell that Kieran is worried. He's like, "Why are you here? I told you not to come in." And he's like, "Well, I was worried about you. I was feeling Poppy." And Castile's like, he had his emotions like locked down, his shield's up. And then Castile tastes his guilt from Kieran. And then Poppy sees Kieran and goes, "You answered," because she summoned him because he can help her. Castile can't because Kieran promised. And then Poppy cries out that something in her wants her to hurt Castile, hurt all of you. She doesn't want to do that. And then Reaver says, "What in the both of you?" And once again, that made us question if they're all three heartmates or if there's something else. Like, is Reaver sensing something else here, such as their powers? Because I think as the book goes on, it's really hard to see if all three of them are heartmates, which I know is one of our initial theories, but it really made me question if that's actually a reasonable theory anymore. So
I think in that instance, Reaver is saying like both, like he can tell that like Castile is now like a primal, and now he's like, Kieran's a primal too?
yeah,
Like
like
what?
holy shit, right?
Like fuck. Yeah.
So Kieran tells Poppy that she's strong enough, they'll figure it out together. Poppy insists he has to do it. Castile is like, "What the fuck is going on? Someone tell me." I feel like it's like when your kids are fighting and like they're like snapping at each other and you're like, "Calm down. Like someone tell me what's going on." And they're like, "Ah." I'm like, "Ugh." So I feel like that's what Castile is doing. And then finally Kieran says he promised to stop her by putting her in the ground. And then we know that Castile attacks Kieran. And that really is the beginning of the relationship between all three of them falling apart throughout the entire book. Obviously, it has a lot to do with the secret being kept from Castile and like his thoughts about what it means. But it also is really important to remember that they completed the joining right before they went to the Bone Temple and the War of Two Queens. That happened, and then Poppy's been in stasis. The three of them have never talked about what this means after the joining for them and their relationships.
Yeah,
Like it's a
exactly.
pretty
They're
big
like,
thing.
yeah, they're like, are we a throuple now? Like, is Poppy allowed to like do stuff with just Kieran? Like,
Or is it just her and Castile and Kieran? Like it was just to give Kieran more protection? Like,
yeah, was this a one-time thing? Yeah.
yes.
Conversations needed to be had, but there was no time to have them. And now here we are. So surprisingly, Kieran does not attack Castile back because he loves him. He's like, "You're my best friend. I'm not going to hurt you." But Castile is in a violent rage, demanding to know why Kieran would make such a promise to Poppy. And this feels more like a betrayal to Castile, like because he trusted Kieran like with his life and with Poppy's life. And now that Kieran has agreed to do something and like didn't bother to ever even like mention it to him, like Castile's very, very upset. And obviously he's also upset that like Poppy never told him either. So finding out this secret basically starts like that major downward spiral for Castile, like emotionally, and bringing up a lot of past trauma for him. Makes him question then how much Poppy trusts him. And you're like,
Mhm.
ooh, that's
That's a
not
hard
good.
one. I know.
This is bad. Not good. Once you lose that trust, it's hard to get it back. But then we have kind of like a really interesting, funny moment where Reaver is now the one trying to pull the two of them apart. And he's just like, "You idiot fucks." And just like, this is the time really for your little bitch fight? He's like, "Get it together." And he's not wrong. It's like, come on, guys. Like, read the room. It's like they've completely forgotten about Poppy, like, pretty much trying to like run away from them and like all this shit going on with her, which is exactly what starts to happen. She's like, "Now's my chance. I'm going to run away." And she escapes from the room after hitting Castile with some major ether. And so then Reaver and Kieran are like, "Shit, we need to go get Poppy." They come back with her. She's knocked out. Reaver also has a pretty nasty, like, hole in his chest. Kieran's not looking good either. But basically, Poppy, like, used a lot of ether on Reaver. And the plan now is for Reaver to return to the Elysium, find out if anybody there can help us with Poppy. He's like, "I don't know what the fuck to do. Let me go ask somebody else. I'm gonna go ask an adultier adult, basically." And but I don't think Nektos is gonna come until like Nyktos and Sarah have like returned to full power. So he's like, the Shadowlands right now are unguarded, and there's still gods that are over there that support Colas. Like, we got to deal with that shit too. And it's like, can someone really quick explain to me though, like, how can any gods still support Colas? Like, he's been in stasis for hundreds of years. Like, you guys have moved on, right? Like, whatever. At least not the primals, but like, still, you're just like,
For
this
fuck's
bitch,
sake,
this guy again?
right?
Yeah. It's like, this guy's old news. Like, how do you still like him? Like, come on.
He doesn't go here,
He doesn't
or he
even go
shouldn't,
here. No.
right?
Yeah.
So before Reaver leaves, he suggests putting Poppy in a cell to protect her and everyone else. And Castile is immediately against this idea because it reminds him of when Poppy was in a cell in From Blood and Ash after she learned about who Castile really was. And he does not want to do that to her again. It isn't until Kieran makes it clear that they have to make her safe so Poppy can live with herself afterwards that Castile finally agrees to do it. But he also makes it clear to Kieran that he does not want to see him after Poppy's put in a cell. And Kieran tells him, you should ask yourself why she asked me to make such a promise and not you. And I, okay,
Those are fighting words.
those are fighting words. So we've been big fans of Kieran throughout the entire series, minus his elusive answers. Sometimes we didn't love those, but like we were all for his friendship with Poppy. We've been all about the joining for like, we've been waiting for the joining for multiple books. We were happy when we got it. We want to see more of it. But I feel like something in his character has dramatically changed in this book. Like, I know we're reading it in Castile's POV, so there's an element to the story that's impacted by like an unreliable narrator. But it feels like Kieran was intentionally being an asshole and trying to hurt Castile emotionally. Like, Kieran could have explained, hey, your wife asked me to do this while you were being held captive by Isbitch. She couldn't have asked you.
Yes.
Number one, like simple thing, timing. Or Poppy asked him because she thought it would be too hard for Castile to do it because of his love for her. But he says none of those things. Instead, his commentary makes it sound like there's something wrong with Castile and Poppy's relationship, which is why she asked Kieran. And I'm like, are you jealous? And we'll talk more about this because, like, to me, I get like the whole esoteric, like, I'm going to ask the question with a question and I'm not going to lead you to the answer and bullshit. But I'm also like,
Yeah.
you could have given two very basic explanations. Like, you weren't here when the conversation happened. Two, she thought it'd be really hard for you. Three, talk to your wife. Instead, you're like, let me play some emotional mind fucking Castile. So
But I also think at that point, he's just like, he's had enough. Like, he's at his limit. He's like, you're not being a king. You're not doing your fucking job. And like, you're worried about this shit. He's like, why don't you just like back off?
yeah, but he could have said that instead of being like,
yes, he. Mhm. It's
I
a
just
learning
feel,
opportunity. It's like, you could have communicated this better.
yes.
Just a bit.
I don't want to say I'm on the I hate Kieran train because I'm not on the I hate Kieran train, but I'm on the like I strongly dislike you in this book right now, Kieran. And every interaction with him makes me question Kieran. We'll talk more about it
I
in
think
theories.
they all need some group therapy.
Maybe. So another interesting tidbit we learned is Delano and none of the other Wolven felt Poppy wake up. I think that's like really important.
Yeah.
Right? Especially since we know that their bond with Sarah would supersede Poppy's bond if Sarah ever called for that. We know Kieran did, but that's likely because they're this connection to the joining. Delano's also quick to point out that Castile and Kieran both feel different, like their power and their smell has changed. He also questions why Kieran isn't down there with Castile, assuming that they're pissed at each other for some reason, which supposedly doesn't happen very often. So like I think that's like one other thing we learned is they use like they're normal people. They fight occasionally like you would with a friend, but it is very odd that they are not like attached at the hip and everyone notices it starting with Delano.
Yeah.
Oh, the marshmallow. I know. I can't say his name without getting sad inside.
So then we have Castile, who is just continuing to grapple like with the knowledge of what Kieran promised Poppy, and he just feels like that she lied to him. And previously, Poppy told Castile that he was her shelter, her home. But if she's able to keep this from him, then he's starting to feel like maybe that's not true. Maybe he she doesn't really believe that about him. And he mentions now that it cut a gaping wound inside of him that he wasn't sure could be stitched up. And your heart breaks for Castile because, like, given everything that he's been through and like how much he loves Poppy, like this does feel like a big betrayal for him at like the deepest level to his core. So I feel bad, but I'm also like, ask the right questions, please. Like, really think about this. But alas, it doesn't happen. So then we're back to another chapter entitled The Primal. And it's the last one like it in the book, honestly. And initially, it's told in Poppy's point of view before switching over to Castile's point of view. And I'm like, oh, they're both primals. Hello, hello. There's your sign. And we start with like Poppy waking up in the cell. She's struggling to remember everything about herself. She recognizes Castile, but it's similar again to earlier in the book where she knows he's important and she doesn't want to hurt him, but also doesn't really know who he is. She has like amnesia, basically. And then we see Tawny show up at the cell, demanding to see Poppy, but Castile refuses to let her in. And Tawny mentions like she knows Poppy is awake because the castle shook a few hours ago. And then she also had a feeling. She's like, huh, the entire walls are like shaking and like now I have this feeling, so I know she's awake. Let me see my friend. But again, very curious why Tawny could feel that something about Poppy when the Wolven could not. And they're supposedly still tied to her via the Notum. And it's like, how did one happen and not the other?
And Poppy's also battling Colas in her head, and he whispers about giving into him. And so, as a reader, you're inclined to think that Colas wants Satoria as his lover, like he has wanted forever. However, if you pay really close attention to his words in the Primal chapters specifically, you'll notice that he never mentions a single thing about loving her. Instead, all of his words are about taking away her pain and giving in to him. Major breadcrumbs that Colas has very different plans for Poppy than everyone initially expected. When we switch over to Castile's POV in the same chapter, it's like my heart broke for him as for what he experiences with Poppy. Like he just feeds into this negative mental state even more when she appears to like be afraid of him, when he can sense her fear. And then, to make matters worse, fucking Colas takes over Poppy's voice and talks to Castile, and it's super creepy. But it also gives us a ton of information, so I liked it for that reason.
Yeah. You're like, oh, but thank you.
But also helpful. So Colas mentions how he told Castile once before that Poppy had always been his, which confirms that, like we've theorized, that Colas was able to take over Duke Tierman and was the one who said those words to Castile before he died. Colas also confirms that he could be within Duke Tierman whenever he chose to be. This is also when we knew our theory about Colas being able to get inside any Ascendant or Revenant because he created them was true. So yay for being right, but also damn it, because that's creepy as hell.
Ew.
It's one of those times where like, yes, I was right, but then also like, gross.
Ew,
gross.
Don't like it.
Okay. Colas promises to kill Castile after he takes everyone he cares about and breaks them, which is also foreshadowing to what happens at the end of the book. Is also, we're going to talk about word choice. It is very possible the word take has no other meaning. But I want to throw out the idea that it's another breadcrumb because we learn from one of the Ascended, Lady Holly, later in the book that no one truly dies anymore. Because as the true primal of death, Colas controls the abyss and everything, right? So when he says take, obviously it can mean kill, but what if it also means take their souls?
Take their souls away. Oh.
Yeah. Colas also claims Castile reminds him of someone he once knew who loved her too, and how he was also a fool. And so our immediate assumption is that this has to be Etty's loving Satoria, but it also makes us question if there was someone else who loves Satoria too that hasn't been confirmed to us yet. And of course, I have an unhinged theory about this. And then, as always, Colas wants what he allegedly deserves, which is another breadcrumb about Colas wanting to be the primal of life and death. And this language is very, very similar to what he used to say to Sarah in the Flesh and Fire series about getting what he deserves when he was trying to steal her embers as the true primal of life.
So then, once Colas is no longer speaking through Poppy, Castile is able to convince Poppy to eat some food. And as we all know, she loves cheese. What woman doesn't? It's like literally a required food group. Like
I could live
cheese,
off
chocolate,
cheese,
wine. Yes, I could live
right?
off
That's,
cheese. My body would hate it. I'd be like
I mean,
severely sick, but worth
also,
it.
this is
Worth
what
it.
happens when you
So
raise
good.
a generation on Lunchables. Because like
I know.
charcuterie boards are just adult Lunchables.
Literally, it is. And I am so here for that because now I'm just like, yeah, it's my lunch. It's my Lunchable. It's fine. No worries. And then, like, your grape juice is just wine, so it's fine.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So Castile now learns that the Rev that he killed while in his cave cat form is decaying. He's like, what? Did not think that was possible. Because so far as they know, like, only draken blood can allegedly kill a revenant. Obviously, now Castile knows he can kill revenants. And Poppy later learns in the book that she can also kill a revenant. Okay, does this mean that Kieran can do that too? Does that mean they can kill Callum?
God, I fucking hope so.
Fucking Callum.
Because
But
because
Tawny,
they're
she's
because none of
safe.
them have tried to kill Column after they've gotten this
That's true.
power. Like not even
Yeah.
Poppy.
Yeah. Well, they haven't been able to find him
I know, but like, do you know what I
yet.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, let's test this theory. Let's find Callum and see if we can kill him. Let's
It would
find
be
out.
like first order of business. Can I kill Column?
Can I kill him? Let's go find out. So, also, there's a moment here we got to talk about how horrible it seriously must have been for Castile to realize that Colas was trying to seduce him as Poppy. Like,
Ugh.
ugh. He's like, wait, you're not my Poppy. You're some creepy old man inside her body, trying to use her body
To have
against me.
sex with me and free
Ugh,
me? Like,
no.
oh. Like,
So
talk
it's like,
about a serious
even though,
mind fuck.
seriously, yeah, like he was desperate to hold her and like wanted to hold on to her. And like, even though he knew it was Colas on the inside, it's like, and also then like to be Poppy inside of her own head, like literally being like, oh my God, what are you making my body do to the man that I love? Like, basically, just like Poppy is also like scratching at her face to like make this all stop. And that's not really her, it's Colas just being a vindictive asshole. So, again, how must it have felt to have to tie Poppy up, keep Colas from making her physically hurt herself, and just again, breadcrumb that Colas isn't in love with Satoria anymore. Because, like, you don't hurt people that you love like that. Like, no way. Like, there's no way if you loved her, you'd be able to stomach, like, having her sit on another man's lap and try to seduce another man and, like, attack herself. Like, if you love her, normal people anyway, like, you don't do
Normal,
that.
healthy love. Not
Mm-hmm.
whatever the fuck this
Then,
used to be.
but then also remember, Colas did have, like, an entire, like, thing of glass dildos. So, you
I know.
know,
He's never really had normal love.
he's never had normal stuff in his life.
Anything.
But again, you would think that he wouldn't want some other person touching her or her
Exactly. If
body.
he loved her.
Mm-hmm. So you're like,
Okay.
yeah, well, something's off here.
Next, Malik and Emil show up. Castile wants Emil to find Millie because no one seems to know where she is. Because remember, she ran away at the end of the Bone Temple. And then things get really crazy because the realm opens and a primal god shows up and it's fucking Etis.
Oh my God. First of all, the realm shows up. You're like, I didn't know that was fucking possible.
Right?
What is happening?
I would have
They're
freaked
like,
out.
yeah, I'd been like, do. What the fuck is happening here?
Exactly. Okay.
And then a
So
god.
we were bummed to
A
see that
god.
Etis' soul is not in Castile. I was a little
Yeah, that was
disappointed.
my first thing. Yeah, texted you.
I
I was
know.
like, what the fuck?
But I was also like, yes, Etis is here. But because we're so glad to
I'm
see
so
him.
happy.
And we have concocted even more theories that involve him. So just be prepared. They have gotten crazier. So this is what's really fascinating is Etis looks like Malik and similar to Castile, which makes sense since we know Castile is a descendant of Etis. Castile also thinks that Etis looks like his father, another breadcrumb for the big news we learn about Valen later in the book. He can't sense any emotions from Etis, likely because Etis is smart and is hiding his emotions with a mental shield, but he does sense pain when Etis looks at him. Why? Because as we learn later in the book, Castile happens to look just like Ken. Oh, yeah. Unsurprisingly, Reaver did not warn Etis about the close resemblances between all of them. Fucking Reaver. No, like heads up when you get there to the realm. He looks like your brother, your dead brother that you allegedly killed,
Yeah.
and his brother looks like you. It'll be fine. No.
Would have been useful information, but no,
I
no.
feel like Reaver is just like watching, like, would be sitting back, like eating popcorn. I wonder what's going to happen
Yeah.
when
He's
they
like,
see each other.
stir the pot. Stir the pot. See what
He's very good
happens.
at it. Okay,
Yeah.
it's also interesting that Delano, in his woven form, is immediately trusting of Etty's. Then Kieran shows up, and Castile uses telepathy to remind Kieran that he's not wanted there. And Kieran retorts that it's not about them, alluding that this has to do with Poppy. And I'm very curious why Kieran came down. How did he know to come down there? Etty's also makes it clear that Castile and Kieran can stay down there with him, but everyone else has to leave. So he can sense some sort of bond between Kieran, Castile, and Poppy. Kieran also mentions that he spoke to Lord Sven. I literally cannot control my face when I say his name because I'm very suspicious about him and Perry. I am. I can't. I get more suspicious after this book. But Kieran's like, yeah, I spoke to Sven about how something like this was possible, but I didn't give him any details. And I'm like, hold please. You spoke to Sven about how, like, what if, hypothetically speaking, a primal god that was crazy got into the body of another person? And yeah, I know you haven't seen the queen for a period of time. Everything's fine.
Yeah. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Kieran.
Ugh.
So let me get this
Bad.
straight. You can tell Sven that, but you can't tell Castile. FYI, I told your wife I'd put her in the ground.
Right? Yeah. And not in a
Like,
sexual way. Not like I'm gonna
correct.
put you in the ground, baby. Oh, it's like, no,
Well,
no,
we'd be all
no.
supportive of that.
That'd be okay. That'd be okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So Castile fills Etty's in on what happened with Poppy and what Colas has said when he spoke through her. And he mentions that Colas can't seem to sense the essence in Castile. And I think that Castile's wrong in that moment. I think he believes that, but I think Colas knows maybe not everything that's in Castile, but I think he senses the power because of some of the earlier comments he made. But because we have to remember, as much as Colas is a crazy motherfucker, he also is very strategic and plays chess, right? Like that's one thing that we've always been told is he's very thinking ahead and manipulative. So it shows his cards if he very quickly acts like he knows that Castile is powerful or has all this essence in him.
Jace also mentions that he only woke briefly from stasis one time, but didn't tell him when that happens, like at this very moment. He's like, okay. Interesting. Breadcrumb, for sure. So then they discuss how Colas could have gotten into Poppy, and Castile seems to be convinced that it was due to the Revenant who attacked them, because the Revenant touched Poppy at one point, and she was weakened then from being in stasis and from Castile being cut with the ancient bone. However, Ates makes a little vague comment about how there are different ways he could have gotten in, but won't elaborate on this. And I'm like, that's not helpful. Ates says he knows of a way to help sever the connection between Poppy and Colas, but mentions how severing that connection in the past has killed the person who was possessed. And Castile starts to lose his shit. He's like, what do you mean? Let's not do that. No, thank you. And it's first of many times in the book where Castile and Ates are like literally at each other's throats. And Ates says, you are so much like him. And we realize then that he's talking about kin. Even though he won't tell Castile who exactly he's talking about, who the him is, we're like, oh, we know. We know. And then after all that happens, Ates does confirm that severing the connection with Colas is not going to kill Poppy, but it will probably hurt and will not feel good. And he explains it's because he's going to have to use draken blood on her, which we all know is very, very painful, and no thank you. And to make it even worse, Poppy probably has a mark on her body from Colas, which is going to be the symbol of death. And Castile claims, like, well, I haven't seen anything on her. Like, the Revenant touched her arm. There's nothing there. And with Ates, he says, well, technically, he wouldn't have to physically touch her. It could just appear somewhere. And that's when we learn that if Colas has had a single drop of her blood and vice versa, there's a link between them. And there's also now a mention of how Poppy is linked to all the Wolven, including how she could jump like kind of between them if she decided, similar to what Colas is able to do with the Ascended and the Revenants. I'm like, okay, so does this mean Poppy can jump into like a Wolven's body? And like maybe she can't technically shift, but she can,
Like, well, like her will, right?
yeah. Or
The
is her
other
will
thing,
going to come out as a Wolven?
maybe, I don't know. And the other thing too is like Etty says that if Colas has had a drop of her blood and vice versa, there's a link between them. Poppy and Castile have fed from each other. Does that mean Castile and Colas have a link between them?
I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
Yep. I see that. Okay. Okay. Ooh,
I don't love that
ooh.
for anyone,
I
but
don't
I
I don't
think,
I don't love that theory.
but I also think it might be accurate.
Shit. God damn it,
I know.
Stephanie. Why would you do this? Oh. Okay. So, meanwhile, while I'm losing my shit, Castile now really starts to lose his shit, thinking how Poppy was likely violated by Duke Tierman while Colas controlled him. He's like, there's always been something weird about Duke Tierman and like Colas, and just like there's been a connection there. He's like, I know it. And he starts losing his shit, thinking about everything that might have happened to Poppy. Kieran, thankfully, is able to kind of calm him down, force him to think about Poppy again. He's like, now's not the time. Like, let's just focus on our task at hand. And then Ates realizes that Castile has his essence and something else. And he specifically corrects Castile after Castile referred to it as Poppy's essence. He's like, no, no, no. This is yours and someone else's. Interesting.
I
Which
know.
now I'm like, oh shit, is it Colas? Oh,
I know.
why?
You're welcome. Just wait. Everyone, just wait till we get to theories in episode 2 because it's you're all gonna lose your shit with the crazy things I've concocted. All right. So once Etty sees Poppy, he gets choked up and admits that she looks like someone he once knew, which we know is Satoria. Castile and Kieran check over Poppy, trying to find the mark of death on her. And there's this interesting moment when Castile is going to lower her gown and thinks to himself about ripping out Etty's eyes if he turned around at any point. And Kieran responds, not necessary, I got it. Castile was not communicating telepathically to Kieran. So how did Kieran know it? Okay. Then we get a gut punch. The symbol of death is between her boobs. Fucking Colas. Just
Pervert.
oh, such a pervert. I mean, it could have been in a worse spot, but that wasn't a great spot, but it could have been worse. Castile is less than thrilled when he learns that Etis has to touch Poppy so the draken blood burns through him and not her. And it's real sweet because Castile wants to do this, but Etis makes it clear like he's the only one who can do it because he'll heal faster than Castile. Etis will go into stasis for a short period of time while Castile would lose his entire arm. Like probably from like the shoulder down. And Castile's like, I'd do anything. And everyone's like, no. I think Kieran's the logical one that's like, you don't want her to wake up and find out that you have lost your arm.
Like, do you remember how freaked out she was when you lost a finger? Like,
correct. We need to. So as soon as Etis touches Poppy on the death mark, her eyes open and it's fucking Colas who sinks Poppy's fangs into Etis' arm, but Castile is able to force Poppy to release her fangs. And then we, in fucking creepy Colas fashion, we get some information. Colas says, I know they weren't of your blood, and I've always known they were his to Etis, which causes him to pale. He also says, I'm going to find every last one of yours, and I will kill them all. I will make sure you live to see it. So major breadcrumbs here. Colas claims he's going to start with killing Castile and then says, you will understand why he loathed you. You will know why he detested her. Etis responds, you don't think I already know. They were like mine. Okay. We're going to talk more about this, but just putting this out there, we have always thought that Colas killed Etis' children in the Flesh and Fire series. That's what we've been led to believe. This proves that that was not the case. They were actually Ken's children. So, it also, I think, supports another crazy theory I have about what the fuck's going on with Ken. Colas also challenges them to pierce Poppy's heart with the ancient bone dagger because he has the power to do so, and it will be a more peaceful death than what is coming. We're assuming that Colas is referring to Etches as the he in the situation, but it's also possible he could be referring to Kieran. We know that love is a weakness that can kill a primal, so it's possible, like about Etches and Satoria or Kieran and Poppy potentially. Kieran pours the draken blood on Etches' arm, and then Poppy, it like goes through her. His arm like disintegrates. Poppy's in immense pain. And you know how much I hate fucking snakes. Two serpents come out of her mark, Colas's essence or his will. Ugh. And then that's when, because originally they thought it was like his soul. And that's when Etches confirmed that's his Vela or his will, not his primal soul. So that's why I said, like, we've heard this before. There's all this talk about the soul. I think there's more to that. Especially because remember, Reaver said before, I don't know if that's ever been attempted or successful. And I'm like, I feel like that's a half answer, Reaver. I feel like it has been attempted. I feel like it has been successful. And I feel like you are walking a fine line of interference. So Etches also says that the true primal of death, that as that true primal of death, there are no limits to how he chooses to project his will, especially as he goes stronger and grows stronger. And my thought was, that sounds really fucking bad. Like, hold on a second. You're saying he can kill people by sucking their blood via like his shadow. He can take over Poppy's body, any ascendant or any revenant. And this is kind of like kindergarten. Great.
That's in his weak state. He can do this shit. Just wait till he gets more powerful. And you're like,
I know. I'm like, but Poppy's supposed to kill him. It'll be fine.
It's okay. No
and
worries.
then Etches also thinks that Castile being injured could have interrupted Poppy's ascension, requiring her to return to stasis again to complete it. Which I feel like is probably true, right? Because they're connected via the joining. And so I could see, right, like when he was injured, that like that required her to use some of her powers to help him. And then therefore she had to return to stasis again.
So then afterwards, after that creepy snake shit, Ates wants to speak to Castile alone. And Ates mentions having met an ancestor of his. Castile assumes it's Elian, but Ates grimaces at that name. We're like, oh,
Why?
there's more to that story. Yeah. Why? Apparently, Ates, Nyktos, Layla, Theon, and Sarah were there to discuss the bonding of the elemental Atlanteans and the Wolven. And Ates also claims that Castile is nothing like Elian, and that a few things run in their bloodline. Twins and temperaments. Interesting. Afterwards, that comment, he says, we're also known to be impulsive, which when combined with our fiery temperaments and often wrathful natures, can create a volatile mix, especially those more closely related. Those who carry more of the essence in them. And Castile jokes that he's like probably would have gotten along with Ates' children, causing Ates to laugh, wince, and respond, I would hope so. Major breadcrumb. Hello. You guys are related. So then we get another small bomb, because, if that's not a big bomb enough, that Ates drops is that Colas knows how impulsive and temperamental their bloodline is. And he clearly knows that Castile is a descendant. And that Colas will now be gunning for everyone in their bloodline, but especially Castile, because of Poppy. Ates also mentions now that he isn't sure what Colas wants from Poppy anymore. So that should also be a clue of like, I don't think he loves her. So not the same. And then Ates mentions that Castile has ether in him that doesn't feel like anything Ates has ever felt, ether that Castile should not even have. Makes Castile dangerous, of course, to Poppy. He also believes that Castile and Kieran need to find out what they've become, especially Castile. And we're just like, can you just like help us out a little bit more here, Ates? Like, can you just like more detail? Come on. I don't read her. Can you tell us more things?
I don't know if he knows. Like, I really question if I don't think he knows. I think he can sense there's more to it, but I don't think he fully knows what's going
Okay.
on. Because I don't,
But he
well,
does.
I think he can sit like, because he says he's never seen power like that before. So I think it's kind of like,
Yeah.
I know there's something different about you. I don't know what it is. Like, you need to go figure it out while your wife's in stasis, while Colas is acting like a lunatic. Can you go, like, do some ancestry work?
Yeah, right. Go to ancestry.com and find out what's going on with you.
It'll
Yeah.
be fine. Yeah. But I
It'll
don't
be
think he
fine. It'll be
knows.
fine.
I don't think
No.
he fully
Okay,
knows.
maybe not. But he does know that they're heartmates, Castile and Poppy.
Yes.
He's like, okay, I do know this. This I know. And it's obviously to him, obviously, because like the power mixed in Castile with his temper. And then Ates also makes a comment about how he would know because he's leveled cities in his anger. And he paid dearly for that. So, okay, does Ates have a heartmate in the past? Like, is that why he leveled the city? Or is it for Sotoria? Is she his heartmate? Which that could lead into our theory of like, can you have more than one heartmate? Because can Poppy have a heartmate and could Satoria have had a heartmate? But if they're one, ooh, things get a little convoluted there. Uh, and Ates also points out again that Castile and Poppy's lives are linked as heartmates, and now Castile's actions will determine hers and vice versa. So basically, he says, Castile, don't become the fatal flaw in her armor. Like, don't fuck shit up. Don't be her weakness. And Ates also points out that Poppy doesn't know how he fights, but Castile does because it's in his bloodline. So, what does
So
that mean?
it means that like Castile knows how Colas fights. So Castile should be able to, and I think that's why he's been right this entire time about what was going on with Colas that like Poppy and Kieran didn't want to listen to because he's able to, from history and his bloodline, to see through like what Colas's true want is.
Yes. Like, I think at this moment, like, Ates is like planting that seed in Castile of like, Colas doesn't really love her. I don't know what he wants, but he wants something that's not love, and he's going to
Yes.
play dirty and evil to get it. And that's yeah,
And
Castile
and
knows from this moment.
and you'll be the one who can figure that out, not anyone else, because you don't, no one else knows him like your bloodline does.
Yes. But before Ates leaves, he does tell Castile to be good to Poppy, and Castile responds always, followed by Ates then saying, and forever. Like, okay, that's very familiar.
It's very familiar.
Breadcrumb.
I may have had to go back to a book and previously in the series and look up exactly what was previously said about that to ensure that there is more to it, like I think there is.
Oh,
So
this book is so good.
it was so
We're
good.
still just getting started. It is so good.
Okay, so we switch back to Poppy's POV. She's in stasis and she's remembering the night of the Craven attack, but before it happened. And there are so many breadcrumbs. Okay. This is like one of my favorite parts of the book. Well, all of the book, but like I love this part specifically because I think if you weren't paying attention, you might have missed it. We learned that Poppy had nightmares as a child that made Cora scared and Leopold's eyes to change to look like stars. We also know his eyes are green. We know Leopold's hair is redder than brown and he can hear her even though she's incredibly quiet. Perhaps because he has enhanced hearing like a god might. He smells like citrus and lilac and calls her Poppy Flower. Poppy is unable to know how Cora and Leopold feel because, unlike other people she encounters, maybe because they can shield their emotions, they're waiting to meet Alistair, and Leopold claims that he will lead them to safety because he's bound to the gods to ensure their safety. Cora begs him not to go back because if he's captured, then she will never trust him again or let him have a second of freedom, referring to Isbitch. Leopold argues that he has to go back because of her, even though Cora doesn't think she will leave. But Leopold has to try it because it's not just her he has to go back for. Leopold doesn't care what happens to them, only they matter. And Cora is worried that if she succeeds in using him, so Isbitch, then the very realm itself will be in jeopardy. And then Leopold tells Poppy that she was named after Penelope, a good friend of his mother's. And her nickname Poppy is because of her grandmother and her grandfather, because her grandmother's temperament is similar to Poppy, her favorite flower. He makes it clear that Poppy wasn't named by the queen, she was named in honor of the queen. And he tells her a story about how him and his little brother, or his brother, played with winged beasts when they were little. That's right, because Leopold is Iris and has always been. So
I really want to like jump back into that and be like, who's they? Who's she? It's this. It's this.
okay,
It's that.
should we do it? We can.
I think we should. I
Okay,
think
we'll
we
do it
have
real
to.
quick.
Okay, really quick.
We'll do it real quick.
Backing
We're
up.
also going to go into theories with this too as well. Okay.
I know. Yeah.
So when they're talking about who Cora is worried that she will succeed in using him, they're talking about Isbitch, right? Because this idea that Isbitch will use it would have to be Iris or
His
Malik,
blood
right?
and him. Yeah.
Their blood, but also as the vessel for Colas.
Yes.
Okay. When they're talking about who he has to go back for, he has to go back for Millie, right? Because
His
it's
other
his
daughter.
other daughter. And there's someone else, which would be at the time, this is going to be Malik, that's being held captive, right? And the assumption is they say that she wouldn't leave. Well, she wouldn't leave unless Malik came because I'm very strongly convinced that Millie knows they're her mates.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's the real question. Who's Cora? So we'll give you a little teaser of who we think Cora is, and then we will break it down in the theory section with multiple proof points, because you know I love notes and reading over things. But I just want to put out there that Cora is Jadis. I'm pretty convinced, yes. And there are multiple situations in this book where we're given pieces of information about Jada, specifically when Jada awakens, that would point to her being Cora.
Oh my God, my mind just blew.
So,
I don't even know if I can wrap around this.
And it would also explain why we learned later, right? Malik, one of the reasons why Millie is mad at Malik is because he basically, turned on Cora. And so that would make sense. So more details to come on that. We'll go through line by line of all of my proof points about what that is.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But 1,000%,
Leopold is Iris.
Leopold is Iris. Yeah. That is 1,000%. There are too many in your face clues in this book specifically that make it impossible to argue against that.
Yeah. It's also fun to think about the line he says, the story about him and his brother playing with winged beasts when they were little. I'm like, playing with dragons? Drakens?
Were you playing with drakens?
Were you playing with Reaver and Jadis?
You were, right?
Yep. Okay. So then now we're back into Castile's point of view. And he is arguing with Reaver, hello little draken, about how they need Poppy to wake up. Something that they both want, obviously, but Reaver is hoping that Poppy will be able to wake up Jadis, which now my mind is just like, holy shit, Stephanie. Oh my God. How did I not even see that? Damn, you're good at this.
Honestly, the biggest point is, and this is in episode 2, we'll talk about it, but when she goes to wake up Jadis, and I had this theory before, but it was pretty confirmed because there are specific things when Jadis, when she wakes up, how her body is described that make it really clear that she was there the night of the Craven attack.
Oh, all the scars and everything, yeah.
Because, specifically, Poppy notices that she has scars on her body that look just like hers.
Yep. Okay. That could be it. So, now that our minds are all blown by this possible revelation, Reaver very much wants to get Jadis to wake up, of course. And basically, while Reaver is trying to convince him of doing this, he is also starting to go at Castile for not acting like a king. He's like, not only are you like not waking up Poppy, but you're also doing a shitty job at what you're supposed to be doing. Like be a king, be a leader. Come on, dude. And he's like, let's just, not get ourselves killed here. Like, but honestly, they start like fighting. So, you know, they're just
River
pissed
was
at each
poking the
other.
bear or the cave cat. Like he
He was.
was,
He was poking the cave cat for
yeah.
sure. He was just like, you're not being a king. You're not doing your shit. You're not waking up Poppy. Like, what good are you? And say that
Which
to somebody like
Castile is
Castile.
already in a bad mental state at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah,
Reaver,
exactly.
back the
Yeah,
fuck
it's bad.
off.
Yeah. But, Reaver's thinking about Jadis. Like, and he's, fighting for his love, basically. So they start fighting, and Malik comes in. And Malik's just like, what the fuck is going on in here, guys? Like, knock it off. We have other shit we got to deal with. Because there's more bad news. They found more Ascended dead. And it's just bad. And Pensdirth now has sent a message back that everything smells like stale lilacs and comments about how Castile's claim to solace is tainted at the bloodline that bore you. He's like, says that their allegiance is now pledged to the one true king of the realms, aka Colas. Great.
Hold on, question about
And
that. I've been thinking
yes,
about this. This is very unhinged. I will definitely think
bring
about it
it.
more. But
Okay.
when they keep saying the one true king of the realms, are we 1,000% sure it's Colas?
Would it be Nyktos?
No, like what if there's an ancient?
Another?
Do you know what I mean?
Like somebody who's like deeply, deeply buried?
Like above Colas, almost.
Possibly.
I know it's really crazy, but I've just noticed like, and I want to go back through and double check, but like it's said so many times, and I'm like, we have always assumed it's Colas. But they specifically say the one true king of the realms. Why don't they just say Colas?
That's true. It's like, why be vague?
Why be vague? And if you're vague
Why
and
not
or
say
use specific
Colas?
words, I start to question what the fuck it means. So
True, true,
just
true, true, true.
noodle on that.
My brain can't. My brain is still trying to wrap around the whole Jadis thing. Like, don't be doing this to me right now. Ah! Okay. So basically, they get that news, and Castile's like, you know what? Let's respond by sending a regiment to Pensdirth to then give the Ashwoods a chance to surrender peacefully. And if they don't, then we will secure the city by any means necessary. And he basically just wants to do like what his father was going to do, which is basically going to give him something to do. So basically, he's like, this is an errand for daddy. Bye. And Castile then also asks Malik if he mentioned the visit from Ates to his father. And turns out that Valen had a very strange conversation with Malik about it, claiming that Valen knew their bloodline was strong, but not who they descended from. Malik finds it odd because most elemental Atlanteans are very proud of who they've descended from, but apparently not their dad. He's like, I don't know. He's like, he's only ever spoken of his parents and Elian. And Malik then got the sense that Valen wasn't being honest when they spoke about Ates. So, very interesting going on. Yeah. Huh. Uh-huh. Meanwhile, Poppy is in stasis, and we see Castile start acting like a king a little bit and starting to make some decisions. And we're like, about fucking damn time. Like, get your head out of your ass.
So Castile prays to Sarah to bring Poppy back to him, and he'll do anything, give anything, even if she never remembers him. And then ether spills into the room, causing Castile to believe the Queen of the Gods has answered his prayer. I think it's really important to think about things that primals say to other primals. Because remember, there's these promises or oaths, and when you say it to another primal, it becomes a binding connection, and you can usually feel something happen. So
Mm-hmm.
he asked for something, he was given it, he'll do anything, he'll give anything, even if she never remembers him. Is that going to be some sort of oath that is tied between Castile and Sarah that comes back to bite Castile in the ass later?
I hope not.
I hope not either, but I just have this weird
Fear.
feeling.
Fear for the
Okay.
worst.
I fear for the worst in this series. I hope for the best, but I really assume the worst is going to happen.
Yeah.
So we switch back to Poppy's POV, and she's in a field next to the Cliffs of Sorrow, having a conversation with another woman, which we know is Satoria, about how Poppy knows who she is and how Poppy should go to him, to Castile, the one calling for her, before the other one, Colas, returns. And Satoria tells Poppy not to let Colas touch her or let him in again. Then Poppy sees true death, right? Which we know Sarah has also seen true death in the Flesh and Fire series. And she tells Colas she's not afraid, and then she smells Castile and she wakes up. Okay, then Poppy feeds from Castile, and he mentions how she purrs and sounds like a pissed off kitten. And I'm like, is this a breadcrumb that she's going to be able to shift into a cave cat like her dad? I really hope so.
I hope
I
so.
really need her to shift, you guys. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I need that for her. So thankfully, Poppy does remember who she is. She remembers everything about Castile, but she's very cloudy after the Bone Temple until now. So she remembers like bits and pieces of what happened, but not everything. I thought it's kind of like anesthesia. When you wake up and
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of like vague, like I remember like getting to the hospital. I think I kind of did I ask you this or say this like while I was in the recovery room?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like that. She's kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is real or not. Some weird shit happened. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, as usual, they're both super turned on. But Castile is trying to
Yes.
be the mature one and not fuck her since she's spent the last 2 weeks in stasis. Poppy immediately has questions about what happened in the past 2 weeks, wanting to get right down to business regarding Colas. So, like, she's like awake, she's been fed, she wants to fuck. He's like, no. And she's like, okay, back to business. Tell me about what we're gonna do about Colas. And I'm just like, girl, you just woke up. Don't you need a minute?
Right? Yeah. Do you need some coffee?
I don't want
Maybe.
people to talk to me for like an hour and a half after I wake up. And you want to
Leave me
like get into
alone.
planning mode? Girl,
We are not the same.
we
We
are
are
not
not
the
the same.
same.
No. But she does freak out for a minute because she now sees the new scar from where Castile was stabbed by the Revenant with that ancient bone. And she like vaguely remembers feeling his pain and like trying to like wake up at that moment to help him. And they both realize and believe like the joining then is like what helped to save him and like probably will like obviously woke her up. And, Poppy obviously saved him at a great cost to herself since it put her into further stasis. Great. And Castile's like, I'm sorry, for putting you at risk and like doing that to you. And he's really torn up about it because, he believes his actions impacted her, which they did, obviously. But Poppy reiterates, like, there's no cost. Like, I'm not willing to pay when it comes to you. Like, I will do whatever it takes for you. Something similar to what he said to Ates earlier in the book. They will do anything for each other. Touch him and die, touch her and die.
Yes.
They will move the world for each other. Castile then tries to catch Poppy up on everything that's happened in the past 2 weeks while she's in stasis, except the part about Colas taking over her body. He's like,
It's like,
I'm not there yet.
how do you tell
How
someone
do you
that?
how do you break that news? Yeah.
FYI, a crazy person who may or may not be obsessed with you took over your body, tried to seduce me while he was you, made you scratch your face. It was fine. Oh, and then
Yeah.
some guy you
Yeah.
don't know had a touch between your boobs and pour draken blood on his hand, which disintegrated. Like, I would be like, I need to go back to stasis.
Yeah. I'd be like, I'm going back to sleep now. Goodbye. Goodbye. Good night. Yeah.
Good night.
Pretty much. So he leaves that part out until later. And at this moment, she's very intrigued by his new powers and by the color of his eyes and her eyes. She's like, what? Why wasn't anybody going to tell me about my eyes? Hello. And he's like, oh, yeah, that happened too.
Like, I feel like that's
Small
the
things.
smallest thing that's happened in the last 2 weeks, but she's like in the mirror, why didn't you tell me? Like, what's going on here?
It's almost like she had something in her teeth. Like, why didn't you tell me I had something in my teeth? Why didn't you tell me
Right?
my eyes were kaleidoscope?
What do you
Crazy.
want to deal with first? The person that might, I don't know, destroy all the realms, or the color of your eyes, Poppy? Pick one.
Pick one, and we'll move on. But things get really crazy because now she starts to like feel a major unease and like this awakening kind of. Both of them feel a sense of dread like immediately, especially Castile now, who is worried like, shit, is it Colas? Like, I haven't told her about that part yet. But then it like passes. And then we get our first real spicy scene of the book where they do have sex because they're like, yes. Because now she's like, let's get down to business before we get into business.
So I guess he
And
was only mature
well,
for like maybe like an hour.
yeah, right. He can only keep it in his pants for so long, you know?
I don't. We didn't want him to keep it in his pants at all, if we're being honest.
I mean,
So
no, I didn't. No, yeah. So he's like, I've had 2 weeks of no sex. I'm not waiting another second. Like, let's go. Makes sense. So while they're doing it, Poppy sees a shadow forming kind of like just below like the surface of his flesh. And Poppy can sense something in Castiel's eyes, something that should not exist within him. And it feels infinite, powerful, and new. Hmm.
hmm, like
She's
something
like,
that's
this is
never existed
unlike,
before.
yeah, she's like, huh, this is a different sexy thing we've done, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
I
Hmm.
liked it. So Castile finally does tell Poppy how she was connected to Colas and how he was able to speak through her a few times. It is extremely unsettling for her to hear. Um, and Castile, I think, does a good job because he reiterates like none of it was your fault. Like you tried to
Yeah.
protect like me and others when Colas was trying to harm us. But it's really frustrating for her because she can't remember most of it. Although she does remember hearing these whispers of a voice that she like inherently knows was Colas. It's also interesting to note that when Castile tells Poppy about a primal coming to help her, one that Castile descended from, it seems important to Poppy. Like she knows that that was
Hmm.
important. And we also get another mention of interesting bloodlines. So a breadcrumb that there continues to be more to Castile's ancestry than what we know so far. And then Poppy feels weird and odd when she hears Ates' name. I know.
Like a little like,
Huh.
huh.
There's also a moment where Castile reminds Poppy that it's normal to not be okay after everything that's happened to her and how she can tell him anything. And she continues to reiterate that she knows that. But what's hard is like Castile is still struggling with the fact that she kept this huge secret from him and he doesn't believe that she can really tell him anything. And I wish, like in this moment, I wish he could open more up to her and just share that insecurity because I think it would have been
Yeah.
so helpful. But I think it's hard because when you're in this relationship where you feel like you have such a solid foundation of trust and you would literally die for each other and your partner has kept a secret from you, you tell them they can tell you anything, and they're like, "Yeah, I know that." And you're like, "But do you? Is there anything you want to
Yes.
share?"
Yeah. Like I just really wish he would have been open right then. Just like, listen, I know about the deal you made with Kieran. Let's talk about it. But, there's not really a whole lot of time because then all fucking hell breaks loose again. Poppy feels so much pain and panic, like more than the devastation that she felt right before they got down and dirty. And then she suddenly like is overwhelmed. She's like, she opens a realm. She's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just like, I have to go. I have to go. She opens up this realm in the world like a tear, and she's like, and she jumps into it. And he's like, no, Poppy, don't. I just got you back.
How did she know how to do that? Like when I was reading
Right?
this, I was like, "Hold on, you're feeling all of this pain and panic. Totally get that." I get similar. It reminded me of Born of Blood and Ash when Sarah feels that in Lasan like with Lasagna, she goes and everyone's been killed, right? But Sarah knew how to shadow step. Like she
Yeah.
understood those things. Poppy knows none of these things at this point. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, your instinct was just like, I'm going to open up a tear in the realm and go someplace that I have no idea where I'm going. It'll be fine.
Yeah. It's like that. No, 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 no,
I
no.
love Reckless Poppy. I really do. But I'm also like, we are making poor decisions today. Like, this is not. Could we have
This
taken a
is
moment,
not.
just like one moment, to like be like,
Mm-hmm.
huh, should I open up a realm and go by myself to an unknown place where after I just woke up from sleeping for 2 weeks? I've been awake for like an hour.
No.
No,
Yeah. No, don't do
no.
this. Don't do this. No. And it is crazy. So much crazy shit happens here. First of all, I was not sure how I felt about this, her coming to our realm. Like, she now has opened the realm to our world here. Like, she
Yes.
is in New York City. It's like,
Did you
wait,
realize that there was other realms besides the Elysium, like besides the mortal world and the Elysium? That there's these
did
other
not realize
completely
it.
different.
When they were talking about like realms, they meant like places like over the sea, you know? Like this is my kingdom and that is your kingdom, but it's like a different realm. And now when they've opened this whole like literally portal to another realm, I'm like, this is some crazy sci-fi shit going on here. Like what? Which makes sense because Jennifer Armentrout likes to do that. So I'm like, what? Okay. Like obviously like Poppy is describing these things that we know to be like, oh, they're on their iPhone, they're listening to the news, they have like AirPods in their ears, and you're like, this is really weird to have Poppy in our world. It's just like,
Trying to describe it, I was like, can you imagine what's going through her head right now? Like, what the actual fuck? I love when she was describing people's clothes. She was like, what are they? Oh, that's really
why is
short.
this
That's
person like naked in their undergarments and running? Like, what is happening?
well,
Very,
I was just like, oh,
yeah.
it was entertaining.
And she's like, yeah, and like, and you know it's New York City because she's basically describing like the Statue of Liberty. She's like, there is a tall monument statue looking thing of a lady holding a light flame and things. And she's like describing skyscrapers, like everything's metal and glass and things are moving around, carriages without horses. And you're just like, okay, definitely different than what you're
Interesting.
used to.
Yeah.
I just feel like a fourth wall barrier being broken, you know, where it's like, puppy, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I
Like,
think
it made me uncomfortable, honestly.
I I loved it mainly because I think we'll cover this on a future episode of the show, but the fall of Ruin and Wrath, there's a tie into that.
Okay,
And
so
so there's like a timeline thing that we'll discuss at some point. Um, but because I'm pretty sure the fall of Ruin and Wrath takes place in the continents, and so we're seeing the continents for the first time right here.
yeah, very funny that it's called the continents. And we're like, yeah, okay, it's definitely Earth. Seven
But then
continents.
I'm like,
Got that.
also, how many more are there? Like realms.
Right?
Like that's
Yeah.
my because like now I'm like there can't just be two. There can't just be
Yeah,
like what
there's
we know from the Blood and Ash world, right? And then now there's the continents. Like, are there more? I've
yeah.
and it what does
It
the map look like?
yeah. It also kind of reminded me a little bit of like Throne of Glass when like Aelin is like falling through the different
Yes,
like realms. It's
exactly.
like, is this what's going on? Because damn. So basically, she's in New York City and she's like, welcome to the Big Apple. What the fuck is this place? Um, and there's like a massive eruption that's going on. And it's like the earth is shaking. Like this woman that's next to her is like, earthquake. Ah. Like there's no warning about anything. People are suddenly just like dying. Like there's like a whirlpool going on in like the ocean, basically in like the Hudson River. And like ships are like capsizing inside of it and like Poppy's like, oh my god, I need to help, I need to help, that's why I'm called here. Like there's just like immense death happening. And suddenly with the earthquake there is an ancient coming out of the ground, just like a creepy Halloween decoration, like popping out, just like fingers, not even fingers, it's like bones pulling out of the earth, like a zombie coming out. And you're just like, oh, fuck, hell no.
And I
Like, that's
imagine
what I
it's
was thinking.
huge. Like I
Oh,
imagine
yeah,
it's
it's
like
big,
very large.
very large. And not the typical thing we want to talk about that's large. And then Poppy can also like feel like Sarah coming into the realm. But then she can feel like Sarah's presence is like pulled back, pulled away. She's like, I can feel Sarah's trying to come, and like now she's gone again. And Poppy's like, fuck, I gotta help. So she's using her ether, then to like try and like save people on the ship. And the lady next to her is like, oh my god, are you a superhero? And Poppy's like, what the fuck is that? She's like, I'm just trying to help. But it's too late. Because like the ship just, it doesn't work. And another person now shows up, and Poppy notes that her ether is like responding to him, to what's inside of him, just like it did with Castile when she first woke up. She's like, this is familiar. Interesting. save the breadcrumb for later about what Castile might be. Turns out this person is actually another ancient or fate who has a design inked on the side of their face, kind of like almost like Rowan. Again, another throwback to Throne of Glass. And it's like a similar pattern to what Poppy had seen in the shadows that climbed across Castile's face. I'm like, oh my God, is Castile an ancient?
Yep. This is
Yep.
why I'm like,
And
if you paid attention, like there's so many good fucking breadcrumbs that she puts in here that I'm like, oh, I love it.
yes, so good, so good. And then she's also seen that this guy's eyes are a lot like hers, the whole kaleidoscope thing, causing her not to remember, like, she knows what he is. She's like, I know what you are. Turns out this is Holland. Oh, what's up, Holland? How you been? Even though he doesn't tell Poppy his name at the time, but like we realize, I'm like, oh, we know who you are too.
We know you.
Holland's like, yeah, we know you. Holland's like, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here right now. He's like, you can't help them. It's inevitable. Like, even if you try, like, they're only gonna suffer and die. Like, this is the best thing ever for them to just like die and not be tortured. And she's like, what do you mean? And suddenly she kind of like knows deep down like what's going to happen if the balance is disrupted in a way. And he makes it clear again, like, you should not be here. Like, you being here is already disrupting the balance. You need to leave. But as we all know, Poppy, she doesn't listen. And she still tries to like help until she suddenly shouts, stop. And everything freezes in place around her. And she can't reach her essence anymore.
That has to be
But
scary.
it's like, don't worry. Yeah, it's like, but don't worry. He can't hurt you. You shouldn't fear him. It's like,
Sure.
okay, sure. And he's like, you should fear that guy. The one who is rising from the ruin and wrath of all that they've created. Just this ancient guy who has come out of the ground, now has skeletal wings, and they're both haunting and mesmerizing. And his eyes are like swirling of color and ether with blood red flecks. And I'm like, oh shit.
That doesn't sound
This is not
great.
good.
I was like, this
This
does
is
not
not
sound
good.
good.
No, this sounds like a very bad time. I don't want to
Yeah.
be in New York City right now.
Also,
And
why couldn't
there's
you
something-
pull Poppy back? You pulled Sarah back. Why you could if like why did you help
Right?
a girl out, Holland?
You're saying, oh, you shouldn't be here? Okay, let's go. Like, just grab her and go. Come on. Because now there is some fighting going on between the creepy ancient guy and Poppy. Because he's like, what are you? And he like grabs her and like is sniffing her multiple times. Because he's like, I don't know what you are. And Poppy ends up pulling on the ancient's dick. Because like, now he's kind of like slowly like reassembling. And she's like, I don't want to do this, but I think it's the only thing that's going to work. And just like grabs it and like hurts him.
Huge was it? Like that's what I'm wondering.
Had
Like,
it
how
been
big
big.
is it that you have
If
to
he's
you
a
can,
big guy,
and you can grab it and like yeah. If you're only listening to
like-
this, you missed some really great visuals that Megan's doing with a water
like-
bottle.
it's like this. Like, I imagine the ancient's dick is like, you
Like
need
a
two
thermos
hands
size.
and yeah, you just gotta
Yeah.
really like jam it.
Pull and twist.
Pull and twist. Pop it. Twist it. Pull it. Anyway, she's able to basically hurt the ancient because he's like, oh shit, my dick. Because, you know, men are men, regardless. And this ancient can actually absorb essence, which he does, and now causes him to literally like grow like body tissue.
Mm,
A lot of
and
questions
hair.
about what that means. Like, that's really yucky. He like just basically takes the essence from her, like is starting to like use it.
Well, so
And-
it's like the mummy, is what I
Yeah.
thought of
Oh,
visually.
yeah.
But then,
Uh-huh.
right? But then, two, this whole idea of absorbing essence. So I started to wonder, does that mean all ancients can absorb an essence? Right? And if so, what does that mean? And how can that be used positively or negatively against like Poppy?
Can you
And-
defeat someone who absorbs essence? Like,
Potential. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I know
I think the
we'll
only-
talk about
only
this later.
solution is
They
to
are
put them to
scared
ground.
shitless, right? But they are scared shitless of her and Castile. But it makes me wonder specifically with what happens at the end when Colas and Castile are fighting at Wayfair Castle. If Castile is an ancient, Can he absorb some of the essence from Kolos?
Yeah, that'd be cool. One more interesting thing that we pick up here, this ancient has feathers that are black as a raven, which we also get hints of later with Castile with all of his ravens and like a feeling that like he has like wings. You're just like, oh my God, he's an ancient. He's like crazy. But then, of course, now Holland pulls Poppy into another realm and she blacks out. You're like,
Now he's
you couldn't
helpful.
have done that sooner. Like, come on, man. But again, there's a method to the madness. Maybe there was a reason he let her see all of this. It's like, I
Exactly.
know you want to help, you can't help, but it's like, don't look at the people that are dying and suffering. Like, don't pay attention to that. Pay attention to this ancient that's coming out of the ground and like what he looks like.
Yes.
Pay attention.
The other thing that's interesting is at this point, Poppy doesn't know the consequences of restoring life. Right? So, whereas like obviously Sarah does, but Poppy has brought people back. The little girl, that was what, the Crown of Gilded Bones. And she
Yeah.
learns a little, and she knows that when people were brought back in the War of Two Queens, there wasn't consequences. But I don't think she thinks about every life she brings back, another has to be sacrificed. Like that's not in her mindset yet, which is why I think she was fine with like trying to help people and like from dying or trying to, thought about bringing them back or whatever. Okay. Meanwhile, Castile's losing his shit. Why? His wife disappeared through another realm and he can't go after her. I would lose my shit.
My wife went to another realm and all she brought me back was this t-shirt.
This says I heart the Big Apple.
I heart New York, yes.
I didn't even get any pizza.
I didn't get any pizza. Yeah.
But why can't he go after her? Because Aiden is currently babysitting him. We did not like Aiden in Born in Blood and Ash, and our dislike of him intensifies in this book. Aiden is a real motherfucker. I really hate him. So let's talk about him. He is preventing Castile from using his essence, similar to what we saw Holland do to Poppy, but he's at least letting Castile speak, because when Poppy was frozen, she couldn't even talk. Aiden has prevented Kieran from sensing Castile's anger and Poppy's absence. So I'm like, how is this not fucking with the balance?
Right.
There's a lot that what's interesting.
It's a double standard.
It's a double standard, but I also think it's one of the reasons why we learn this stuff is to learn what ancients are capable of doing. Right? He also comments about who would have thought this would be the outcome of joining with a primal, how he has a feeling that some knew exactly what the outcome would be. And I'm like, when you say some, who are you talking about, Aiden? Do you mean other fates or ancients? Do you mean Poppy, Castile, or Kieran? Like, did Kieran know? Because we know that there's probably a seer in his line. Like, who is the other person? He also points out it's likely due to Poppy and Castile being heartmates and then throwing a Wolven into the mix. So it's not just the joining, it's that there are heartmates. And it's a Wolven.
Throw a little Wolven in there.
And I'm like, and you're forgetting that, I don't know, Castile's bloodline's super fucking cool. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then Castile can see Aiden's special eye color and the vine-like tattoo crawling up his face. And that shocks Aiden because there are only two other beings beside his kind, ancients, that can see it. The true primal of life and the true primal of death. So that means, right, one of two things. Is Castile the true primal of death? He can't be because Kolos is the true primal of death.
Well, still. Yeah.
Correct. Because we know that Nyktos is a primal of death.
Mm-hmm. Not the true.
Not the true one. And that has to mean that he has to be similar to an ancient. Aiden doesn't believe that Castile should be able to see this, joining or not, another breadcrumb. Aiden mentions how much Castile looks like Etties and how Castile is going to be as problematic as Etties.
Great.
I'm actually here for this. But I'm also like, Aiden, when you say problematic, we've theorized for a while that Etties has done something with the Fates. I personally believe it's tied to Ken and his soul and like what's going on with him. So the question really is, when you say problematic, what do you mean? And why are you being vague as fuck? It's not helpful.
Right. But of course,
And
they
then
have to be vague.
they do. They don't have to. They choose to.
Oh, they choose to, yeah.
Because one of them, remember, gave Coles the goddamn star diamond and told him what to do with it. So
Yeah, right.
they pick and choose about
Sometimes.
when they want to interfere. But according to Aiden, Poppy did a bad thing by crossing the primal veil. Excuse me, what the fuck? There are more realms. Would love to know how many, Aiden. Offers zero details. He's like, she crossed the primal veil. No one knew that was a thing, Aiden.
Right? It's like,
Like,
there's a line in the sand I didn't know existed. Where is it?
great.
What does it
Now
look
it's my
like?
fault. And then Poppy, he confirms that Poppy's ascension has caused the ancient to awaken, and that Poppy was pulled to the primal veil because of the significant loss of life, since she is a true primal of life. Sarah was also pulled but stopped from crossing. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. So Poppy is a true primal of life and a true primal of death?
Right.
She was pulled to the primal veil, but also you're pissed at her for going to something she didn't know
What was
she
she supposed to
existed.
do?
Like,
Like, what?
excuse me, what? God, I really hate
Sorry,
you.
I broke the rules when I didn't even know they existed.
Exactly. And you've literally physically pulled me there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like,
And then Aiden confirms another fate. Holland is with Poppy in the Primal Veil. Castile is adamant about going to Poppy, right? And Aiden won't let
sure.
him and threats to hurt him if he tries, which would in turn hurt Poppy. And I'm like, thank you, Aiden, for being an asshole. And then he reiterates that Poppy is not indestructible, asking Castile if he's going to become the fatal flaw in her armor. That is the second reference. Etties has said it now. Aiden has said it now. Why are the two of them using the exact same word choice?
Yeah, that's very purposeful.
That's suspicious. Aiden drowns on about the importance of the fucking balance. I hate the balance. And he does confirm that Poppy is the harbinger, the bringer of death and destruction. Which at the time, right, we're all thinking is still Colas, and we learn later is not Colas. It's been Castile this entire time. Castile assumes Aiden is talking about Colas, but Aiden replies, Colas is the great conspirator. So Aiden, once again, vague as fuck. I hate Aiden. I feel like he is a snake in the grass.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's the one that gave the Star Diamond to Colas. I don't think he's the one that gave the Star Diamond to Column, but I do think he's a snake in the grass.
Yes, for sure.
So.
And again, like we learned at the end of the book that the death and destruction is Castile, which is just like, what?
It's been about him this entire time.
The whole time. Because it's always about him, right?
Well, that's now I was gonna say that's why I love the prophecy, because I feel like it really does. You could solve the prophecy with like one or two books on the series based on like what you think you know about the worlds and what you think you know about characters. And then as you add more information, it evolves and changes. And that doesn't mean that you were necessarily that the prophecy
like
itself has changed or that you were wrong. It's that you didn't have all the information. So
really, Jennifer Armentrout is the true ancient here.
She is the mastermind.
She's the master. She is the puppet holder.
Yes.
So now we are back in the Elysium. Poppy wakes up and sees Victor. And she's like, what? Like, we're screaming, we're freaking out. Like, Poppy's like, oh my God. Like, it's all connecting. Of course, we knew all this because we read the previous series, so we know. And Poppy gets to learn a lot more information while she's there. So, first of all, Victor confirms, like, yeah, you're not dreaming. This is real. I'm really here. Don't worry about it. And it's like, I'm really here. We can hug. It's fine. And Tawny apparently had experienced something that was a dream of a different sort, and that Poppy will understand it one day when she least expects it. What? Because remember, Tawny had said, like, I dreamt of Victor. You're like, huh? What do you mean? But again, he can't say much. She's not allowed to. And then Victor apologizes for not keeping the promise that he had made to Poppy, like when he was dying. He's like, I'm so sorry again. Like, I couldn't keep you safe and I failed you. And again, like, Poppy's like, I don't understand what the hell you're talking about. Like, what are you referencing? Well, you never broke any promise to me. But that was a promise that he made to Sarah to keep her safe. So it's like, but he doesn't exactly explain that either. So then Poppy tells Victor all about how like he was like a father to her and how much she misses him. And he even says, like, I'm so proud of you. Like, you've always been like a daughter to me, too. And he's like, and like, yes, I know Castile loves you. He's like, I don't love him, but he does love you. So I'll tolerate it, like a protective dad, And he mentions then how he didn't have to go through growing up this time because, like, as a Victor, because the situation was different with Poppy. He was already sent to Solus when Poppy was born to then give him time to adjust being in the mortal realm. So Victor then confirms that Holland brought Poppy to Mount Lotho and how Holland likes to walk that very fine line basically between interfering and not interfering. And so Poppy's just like, wait a second. Does that mean Holland is an ancient? And what? And he's like, yeah, basically. And some ancients went to ground in Arcadia, and they're still there. And they're still there to ensure the balance. And she's just like, fucking balance? Like, what
Right.
is this? And then Poppy also realizes that her eyes look similar to Holland's. And she's like, wait, wait, wait. Click. And her voice tells her that she knows what this means. That she might also be an ancient. But now supposedly Holland says that he brought her to Mount Lotho because he just couldn't drop her off unconscious and let Castile lose his shit. He's like, I needed you to like be okay before I brought you back because it would have been bad for me to just show up like that. Like, yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. Victor then apologizes for everything that Poppy also went through with Duke Tierman. And he tells her, he's like, I couldn't speak up or do anything to like basically cause me to be removed as your guard. He's like, because I needed to be there to protect you. He's like, but I hated that it happened and I didn't want it to happen. And then he encourages Poppy to ask Castile about everything that Castile actually did to Duke Tierman before he died. He's like, don't worry, Castile took care of it. Just ask him. And then he drops a little bomb right here and says how some of the Ere think having Poppy and Mount Lotho is too much of a threat to them. Even though Victor's like, I don't believe that. He's like, I know what's in her heart. I know she's safe. She's not going to hurt us. But also Poppy's like secretly kind of pissed off at the Fates. Not secretly,
Aren't we
honestly. She
all?
makes it pretty well known. Aren't we all? Yeah. And then at that very moment, we meet a new Fate, Lyrian.
Oh,
And he just like pops out of nowhere. And she's just like, what the fuck? Like, why did you give somebody a warning that you're here? Because like she didn't even feel him arrive or anything. Because the Ere have in their goodwill have decided to bound all of Poppy's powers so she can't use it against them. And she's like, that's fucked up.
here's what's interesting about that. They all had to
Yeah.
use their powers to bound her
Yes.
as like to bound her.
Yeah. So for me, I'm thinking like there's no way Kieran could do that by himself. If that ever comes to that. I feel like it's gonna be everybody against Poppy. So then with Lyrian there, Victor has to say goodbye to Poppy. And he's like, no one can really tell her now, like, if she's going to get to see Victor again. So he does give her, like, a really big hug, Because he's just like, come here, you. It's not goodbye. It's okay. But as he's leaving and giving her a big ol' hug, he whispers in her ear and says that he was wrong about Leopold. He wasn't who I thought he was because he had never seen him until then. And then he cuts himself off and tells Poppy to ask Tawny about it. You're like, who is Leopold? And at that point, you're like, oh my God, is Leopold Iris, whatever. Like, is this true? Is Victor confirming this for us?
I think so. Yeah, because I think previously, right, the thought was we were told, that Leopold was a Victor, like Victor, but he wasn't. Okay.
But ask Tawny. Tawny
Ask
knows.
Tawny. She doesn't remember it, but she does supposedly know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Of course.
Lyrian confirms that Victor is different from the others and favored by the queen, which is why he can get away with stuff. Okay. Lyrian, sounds like you have a problem because you're an asshole.
I was like, you're
Maybe you should be
jealous.
nicer, right? Lyrian also comments that Victor knows and sees more than he should, but there are things he doesn't know and can only make assumptions about, and Poppy's father is one of them. Poppy questions which one, and Lyrian responds, there is only one. Another confirmation that Leopold and Iris are the same person. So then Lyrian goes on to explain that Castile was prevented from following Poppy into the Primal Veil and that Poppy has the Videntia, allowing her to have foresight. But in typical Lyrian fashion, hers could be lacking since her ascension wasn't exactly normal. I'm just like, are you the world's worst fate? Because I think the answer might be
Seriously.
yes.
She's like, can I get a new one? Can I get a new fate, please?
Same. Ugh. Poppy threatens to destroy anyone that harms Castile, and then Holland like pops out of nowhere, calling her a liar. And I'm just like,
where'd you come
hello.
from?
Also, Holland is pissed that Lyrian is there with Poppy, but we don't learn why. And I feel like that's really important. Like, why is he pissed that Lyrian shows up? Holland also reminds Poppy that she had a chance to destroy the realms when Castile was taken by Isbitch, and she didn't. And that's how he knows she's not as reckless as Sarah, just like Victor told him. And I'm like,
yeah.
But what if she was? But
no,
what if she was? So, however, Castile would burn through the realms for Poppy. So according to Lyrian, that's why Poppy's presence worries the other fates. They're worried about Castile. This feels like foreshadowing. So when we talk about the end of the prophecy, right, about destruction from the west to the east, I think this is talking about Castile going into the Elysium to get Poppy back.
Oh, yeah.
So Poppy argues that Castile is not a monster and cares about others. I also agree with that, but I think that is set aside when it comes to Poppy. Like, I think his rational behavior is gone when it deals with her.
Yes.
And then Poppy learns that Holland is married to Penelope, the goddess. And Holland tells Poppy she was pulled to the Primal Veil not because of the deaths occurring, but because of the awakening. And the ancient would have felt threatened by Poppy because he has never felt, sorry, I have to get angry for a second, a female carrying the essence of life and death. And I'm like, okay, so basically because she's a woman, that was the problem why the ancient felt threatened by Poppy, because she's a woman and she has power.
I'm so glad she pulled his dick.
Me too. I was like, you should have chopped it off.
I was like, she'd been like, my dick's bigger. Exactly.
There's so many Taylor Swift songs came to my mind in this situation,
exactly.
Right?
Dick's like, fuck the bigger.
Exactly, or fuck the patriarchy, because it is alive and well apparently in the world of the ancients, because they also confirmed there's never been a female ancient. And I'm like, oh, so now I get why you seem threatened, because you're afraid a woman's gonna do it better, because she will.
Because she probably will. Yeah.
Ugh.
Exactly.
So ancients. Holland also briefly mentions how two ancients awoke in the Primal Veil. The first one attacked the second one, and Lyrian's like, that's abnormal. And Holland's like, yeah, it's concerning. I'm like, great. And then they're like, and moving on. I'm like, no, back up for a second.
No, yeah.
What do you mean? You can't just say, one ancient attacked another. They shouldn't have done that. That's not great. Okay, so later, what would you like for dinner?
You're like, wait, what?
What?
Excuse me?
And then we learn that the true primal of life and the true primal of death can cross the veil, but they're not supposed to. So then I'm like, has Colas crossed the veil? And also, why was Sarah stopped?
Yeah.
If she's the true primal of life, why did you stop her from crossing?
And how did you stop her from crossing?
And how did you stop her? And did Niktos want to murder you after?
Probably.
Yeah. So then we learn that Lyrian was part of the 10 ancients who dreamed, but Holland was not. And I may or may not have started a little cheat sheet about how many ancients there are, who are their names, were they part of the 10? Because I
Yeah.
feel
Are
like
there
this
more
is
than
going.
10?
They're 1,000% more than 10. We do know that.
Hmm. Yeah.
But like, how many? Where are they at? Who can I trust? Who can I not? Because I feel like the next book is all going to be about like this is going to come into play. I'm also curious of how many of them can die before the world's collapse, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes.
Yes, absolutely. Because now Thorn shows up. Hello. Hello,
Hi,
cutie
Thorn.
patootie. Hi, how's it
If you
going? Love
so if
you.
you don't know Thorn, you will meet him in the Fall of Ruin and Wrath.
Hmm. And much like how we reacted, Poppy is also very entranced by his good looks. She's like, I love my husband and I lust for my husband, but goddamn, I'm looking
Damn.
twice at this guy. Like, hello, honey.
Hello.
Which makes Thorn question, like, how happily married are you, Poppy? And she's like, shut up. And like realizes that he's trying to use compulsion on her, which pisses her off. She's like, I don't care how hot and sexy you are. You can't do that to me. And I'm like, please, you can do it to me. That's okay. You don't even have to compul. I don't even need compulsion. I'd be
I
like,
don't need
done. Here we
compulsion,
go.
right?
I'm gonna compulse him to be like, hi, what's up?
How you
Anyway,
doing?
how you doing? So pull a good old Joey. And then we learned that apparently all of the Aerie have released their embers of their essence and do not carry the gold of life or the crimson of death. Very interesting. Yeah, so it's out there, just floating around, but we know who has it. So their purpose actually is to ensure that the fucking balance is kept and that the ancients who went to ground don't wake up. Well, that failed. You fucked up. Epic failure. So then Holland confirms that Poppy is like them, which is one reason, again, why she was probably drawn to the Primal Veil, and that she's able to wield power over life and death, and that she will be able to create and destroy realms, which the Aerie can no longer do. I'm like, she can create a realm?
Correct. And destroy them, but the Aerie can't. Huh.
Maybe she just has to go make a new realm just for Castile and Kieran and just like Adam and Eve start that shit new. Adam and Eve and Steve. I don't know.
And their friend Steve.
So, and their friend Steve comes along too. So basically now we're just confirming that Poppy is an ancient, basically, but she's an ancient born, which was impossible until her. They're just like, what? This should not be, but it is. So there's an interesting comment about how basically what Isbitch wanted now is different than from those who had originally aided her. Likely meaning fucking Callum, like whatever. And how she may have realized that if she hadn't been blinded by vengeance and wrath this whole time. But her fate was sealed long before Poppy was born, and her choices ensured that. And, oh, by the way, Poppy is now the start of a new pantheon, according to Holland. But Lyrian prattles on about it. He's like, oh, that's yet to be seen. We don't know about that. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's like,
I feel like that's when someone gives you a really great compliment. They're like, you are destined for greatness. And then there's like the asshole that's like, I mean, really?
maybe.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's to be determined. I know.
Yeah.
I'm just
You're
like, fucking Lyrian. I'm like, okay,
go away.
peanut gallery. Like, why are you here?
He's seriously just the peanut gallery. And then, okay, Holland also mentions how she was not the only one to ascend, which, okay, yeah, we know that. It's Kieran and Castile, obviously. And then Poppy asks, does that mean they're primals? Which Lyrian just starts laughing about. He's like, are they primals?
You were unwise. Like,
Child, young ancient. And he's like, no, because they are primals who belong to no court, like Poppy. So they're not really primals. And it's just like, then what the fuck are we? Is what she's saying. She's like, what then what? I don't know. And he's like, you're basically called Dominion, which basically is like a whole other class of primordial beings that basically have no anchors to anything. Like, not even to the essence of the realms. So that includes the ancients. So basically what we've learned here is that Poppy, Castile, and Kieran are unbound, true primals. And there are differences, obviously, between Kieran and Castile. And Thorn then comments how Castile is special.
I agree.
What do you mean? I mean, we do agree he's special, but what do you mean he's special?
You
And then
don't
we
mean it
get
in the
another little
same way we do,
comment.
Thorn.
No, exactly. We get another comment then by Thorn about how only one of those exists, and he is not a Dominion. He's complicated. I mean, aren't we all complicated? But still. And then Poppy asks, is there no other true primal who is fully ascended? And that feels like a breadcrumb specifically about Thorn, because he doesn't answer it. Just like, so basically, we've learned that like being a Dominion has some benefits, because you're not tied to anything. But then also, like, if one of them were to die, there doesn't need to be another primal to ascend to ensure that a court remains, which is good and bad, I feel like.
I know. Like, yay, but also boo.
Ooh. Yeah, huh?
And then we also learn the next one to ascend as the true primal of life must be a female, unless Poppy abdicates. And I'm like, you can abdicate? Because she would have done that a long time ago, you guys.
Right? She'd be like,
I abdicate. I'm
pass.
good. Pass. Hard pass.
I'm done.
No, thank
Yeah.
you. And then Iris or Malik could ascend and take her place, but they could maybe potentially die in the process. And I'm like, hold on. So she can abdicate, and then her dad or her uncle could take her place, but they might die.
Which means she would get it again. Which
Right.
is like, what's the whole point?
This sounds like a circular loop, unlike
Yeah.
Poppy's potential future offspring. And I'm like, okay, so that's the second reference to children. Because when Etty's mentioned twins, Poppy or Castile had the thought of two little girls that look like Poppy. Now we hear them talking about Poppy's future offspring. And I'm like, huh, what's going on here? Holland also confirms that him and Penelope have a child. And I'm like, I wonder who that might be. I wonder if we know her. I wonder if she goes here. I wonder if she writes a book.
I wonder if she wrote a book.
I wonder if we like it. I wonder if that's going to be really weird at some point for certain people to learn. Huh. So if you haven't picked up, we think Holland and Penelope's child is Miss Willa. And if you want to talk about fucking interfering, Holland and Penelope having a child is a lot of interference. It being Miss Willa and all the things Miss Willa does, that if you read Visions of Flesh and Blood, you know she interferes a lot more than you think. She's not walking the line of interference. She is clearly going like, huh, I'm gonna go fuck around over here.
Woo. She's basically like, if you were to give her like a sobriety test and like walk the line, she'd be like, woo, I'm just going dancing over there. Woo, woo, woo. Like, what line? Like, I don't see a line.
I'm gonna fuck around and find out, and you're gonna find out, and I'm fine with that.
She does.
And she does, and we like it.
Fuck around, and you will find out about it in my fuck book. It's not a burn book, it's a fuck book.
I like this. Change approved. So, binding a primal to a court was a means of control.
Great. Yes.
Great. Thank you, ancients. Ensuring that the primals act right, fucking balance again. Ensuring that the primals' actions and death impact the realms to keep the balance. Dominions aren't tied to a court, so they can't be kept in check, making them dangerous. To who?
True.
You?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then maybe R.A. Fates, Ancient, whatever you'd like to go by today, you should not do the horrible things that you do.
Right? Don't fuck shit up.
Exactly. If you're not making poor choices, why would anyone have to do something about it? And then Poppy also thinks multiple times about how Thorn's facial expressions sound familiar, are familiar, and his laugh sounds familiar. Small little breadcrumbs about that could lead us to about like maybe who is in Thorn's bloodline.
Very interesting.
So while Poppy's birth set out a chain of reactions leading to Cola's coming back and the ancients in the ground awakening, Thorn also mentions how those ancients were disturbed before Poppy's ascension because mortals were encroaching on places sacred to those who built the realms. And I'm like, hold on a second. You're saying we're going to wake up anyways, or they already woke up for the most part, and maybe just didn't come out of the ground, like it's not her fault. Could we have told a girl that sooner?
Just maybe we could have just avoided a lot of this like drama. Maybe.
right? So some of them started waking eons before. All of them could have awakened regardless of her ascension. And I'm just like, thank
So
you
it's
for
not my
giving a
fault.
girl
So it's not my fault.
exactly.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then Holland confirms that there are ancients asleep beneath Solus and Atlantia, and the rest have been disturbed. But he doesn't know how many. And I'm like, super helpful, Holland. Super helpful. You don't know how many there are of you. That feels dumb.
Yeah.
And
You
the
guys don't
only
have like a roll call or anything? Like, come on.
don't you think that's something that would have been nice to have known or to written down somewhere? Like I write this down like, oh, 10 buried in Solus, 14 in Atlantia. Like
Right? There should be a map with all the ancients
there
marked
should
with
be
an
a
X.
map. Correct.
And then there should be a group chat of all you guys like talking about it, being like, okay, so and so woke up. So and so has entered the chat. They woke up. So and so
Correct.
entered the chat. They woke up. Like,
They fought each other. It's bad.
that's bad. They blocked
The
each other
only
on Facebook. It's bad.
It's bad. It's complicated. Their relationship status is it's complicated.
Yeah.
The only way to stop more ancients from awakening is to stop Colas. Great. So once again, everything relies on Poppy killing Colas. We also learned that Colas can't remain in the mortal realm because he's a primal of a court, so his presence will influence the mortal realm and upset the balance. And that would apply to any primal tied to a court. So I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. But also, hasn't he been in the mortal realm for like hundreds to like 1,000 years while he's been like entombed? And his will's been
Right?
frolicking around?
But I mean, everything's been fucked up. You know, like we had the
It's
rot
true.
for a long, long time. And then like other shit.
I don't
So,
know. So Lyrian comments how Colus's original goal was to become the primal of life and death, and how he doubts his goal has changed. If he drains Poppy of her essence, then he would become the primal of blood and bone, and Poppy will die. And I'm like, Lyrian actually told you, Poppy, what Colus wants.
that's the only actual like useful thing he said. It's like,
Correct.
okay, yeah, that's truthful.
Yeah, the rest of the book, you think Colus is in love with Satoria.
Yeah. It's like,
Oh.
no, no.
And then Thorne comments how Colus doesn't have any goodness left in him, another breadcrumb alluding to, once again, the love he has for Satoria is gone. And then we find out that all the ancients who awaken due to her ascension have done so. And I'm like, what does that mean? Is that just the two that we know of in the continents? Are there more? Like, has anyone talked to the people in Atlantia?
It's just a little warning, like, ooh. Or like, is everything okay? Everything okay?
Like, you
Like,
don't even
you
know
need to
how many
mark-
there are.
Mark safe if you're safe from the ancients, okay? Like, oh
Like
shit.
the Blood Nash Facebook status. Where are you safe from
Yeah.
the ancients or not? Are you safe from the Blood Crown? Are you safe from...
Whew.
Oh,
Yikes. They really need that technology.
like every day I feel like there would be one that needs to come out.
Yeah, they're like, well, spotted. Another ancient popped out of the ground. Hashtag ancients. Oof.
Hashtag bad shit happening.
Bad shit. Hashtag where is Castile? Where's my
I
king?
know.
What the fuck?
Aw.
Okay. Oh. So then we also get another important breadcrumb that the Ere have apparently agreed to not engage with the ancients in the ground because those ancients are more powerful than the Ere. So Poppy's like, so you're scared. So you're a fucking coward. And Thorne's like, ooh, you better not say that all of us are cowards. I'm like, okay. It's a little
Okay,
breadcrumb
Thorne.
again. I'll agree, not everybody, but most of you in this room are cowards. Looking at you, Lyrian. And of course, like he doesn't like being called that. But also we find out that the Ere are the anchors to the realms. So if too many of them die, then the fabric of the realms will unravel. Big black hole, everybody goes bye-bye, basically. So Poppy's like, how many? How many need to die? And how many should remain to make sure that doesn't happen? And like, Thorne wants to answer that question, but Lyrian's like, shut up. Shut up. She's going to kill me. Shut up. Like, don't do it. And she's just like, I'm going to kill you. How many of you need to die? It's going to be you. You're first on my shit list. You're going to die. Like, pretty much. And then Poppy calls all of them out again about how stupid they all are and how stupid their rules are and fuck the balance. And like so many people have been like tormented and killed for decades. You guys are cowards and little pussy shits. And it reminds us a lot of Sarah, actually, when she was also screaming fuck the balance in Born in Blood and Ash. And Poppy then challenges Lyrian on how they don't even know what that balance means. It's like, how can you even like say this when you don't know what's going to happen? And Holland does agree with her. He's like, she made a point there. You know, we didn't think about that. Did not think about that. Interesting. And she's like, duh, hello. And Poppy comments how she would have given up her life if she had known ahead of time that her ascension would have caused all this shit. But none of them would have made that choice. They're all like, I mean, I don't want to die, so fuck everyone else. Cool. But of course, Poppy's our savior. She's our martyr. She's like, I don't want everybody else in the world to suffer because this happened. And then, of course, Lyrian continues to be the asshole that he just is and mentions that all of these people in the past have wanted to kill Poppy. Like, lists everybody that she's pretty much loved and, like, thought of. And the biggest surprise here actually is Millie. He's like, you know, your sister wants to kill you, right? She tried to kill you at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Poppy's just pissed and, like, takes a swing at Lyrian. And obviously she doesn't have her powers and he's a little bit stronger than her at the moment. And he just, like, grabs her by the throat. And is, like, holding her up, commenting how happy he would be to kill her right then and there. And he's getting pretty upset. And Poppy, you know, is choking. And Thorn orders Lyrian to release her. And then he throws Lyrian across the chamber. We're like, hi, Thorn.
Hey, Thorn.
Are you part of the touch her and die? Because I
Do
approve.
you remind us of anyone?
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. Also, Thorn, you are more powerful than Lyrian.
Mm-hmm. So then Poppy obviously is even more pissed off at Lyrian and threatens to kill him. She's like, I'm going to find out how many area there are and how many we can afford to lose without hurting the realms. And then again, you're first on my shit list. You're going to die. Bitch, you're going to die. And then Poppy finds out that the area apparently voted on killing her a long time ago. She's like, what the fuck? And the decision to end her life was not unanimous. And
Great.
Both Thorn and Holland, yeah, right? And both Thorn and Holland were actually the ones who were against it. They were like, yeah, no, let's not do that. Let's not kill her. Don't do it.
Well, she was a child.
Yeah, it's like, okay, cool, thanks so much. And then Thorn comments how Poppy is everything to Colas. But again, he has no goodness and love in his heart, but she is everything to him. And the entire point, legitimately, of this entire conversation with the area is for Poppy just to know what she is. And Thorn reminds her that only she can liberate Bone and Ash. Only she can liberate death. But we don't really think he's talking about Colas anymore.
Okay. We're back in Castile's POV. He continues to attack Aiden for insinuating that anything happening is Poppy's fault. Aiden shares some other helpful information. He refers to Atlantia as the Bone Lands, which I think is really interesting, right? Because remember what happens with Sarah in the Bone Lands and Born of Blood and Ash, where she can have, she kind of rises the armies from the dead. Ancients dreamed of heartmates, but they also didn't always understand what they saw. Not every union of two hearts is good for the realms. I was like, I don't like this. Sometimes what is born of such a union requires sacrifice. And I was like, 0 out of 10. Do not like this piece of information.
No,
I think I see where you're going with this, Jennifer Armentrout. I do not want to be emotionally
destroyed. I don't like it.
I mean, I do, but I don't. It is believed that not even death can sever a heartmate connection because the souls will reunite. Heartmate bonds can be broken, rejected by one or both. And Aiden believes that is something Castile should know. 0 out of 10 do not like. But I do think that's where we're headed in the next book. Then Aiden says the worst thing possible. Asking if Castile or Poppy would reject their bond if they knew untold lives would be lost and the realm would be left in ruin. Obviously, Castile wouldn't reject her in this situation. He doesn't believe Poppy would either, even though she's way better than him. Aiden continues to push Castile on it, asking if the answer would be the same if their union would destroy Poppy. And
Yeah.
Aiden reiterates that it's good Castile has so much faith in their union because they both will need it. And I was like, I hate this entire conversation. Like, I learned a
Yes.
lot of information. It's great breadcrumbs and foreshadowing. But my heart is already upset at the thought of this happening. Like, at the thought of like Castile or Poppy having to break their heartmate bond because of what's better for the realms and the fucking balance. Didn't we go through this with Sarah and Niktos? We talked about how I cried through like 30% of that book. I can't. Or at least I need to know so I'm not like, at the pool with sunscreen on my face sobbing for 3 hours. While people are
Warning.
like,
You
I
need a
need
trigger
a
warning.
I need a cry emoji warning for books. Like this will like 0 tears, 4 tears. 4 tears means like basically like you're sobbing, like you can't see, like you're snotting. Like a 1 tear is you might tear up, but it's like a few minutes. Like I need to know because
So
if
we're gonna have a
you
spice rating, and then we're gonna have a tear rating.
I think we need it because honestly, if she
Except for
breaks
me,
their
I don't
heart,
cry.
well, you cried when Victor died,
I did.
not like I did.
Not like you did.
There
I
wasn't
shed a tear.
sobbing. Your children weren't like, "What's wrong with you? Are you okay?" It happens
I threw
a
the
lot
book.
with
I was
me.
pissed. I was
Yeah.
just like, fuck this.
But also thank
Well,
you. Like I love it when you get emotionally destroyed and you're so because you're so tied to the characters. But then I'm also like, please don't do that to me.
yeah. I mean, I get sad. I definitely got sad like at the end of this book. I was like, I
I know.
remembered. But I didn't really cry. Okay. So then Poppy finally shows back up, and Castile is furious when he sees the marks on her neck. He's just like, who the fuck touched you? I will destroy them. And oh, God, we love how his touch her and die like protectiveness is at like another level in this book. He's just like he's about to go primal on their ass, and then hopefully go primal on our ass.
That's what I was like. He can go Primal on her ass anytime.
Hey, 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 hey. Yes, please. And then Poppy's like, whoa, 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 calm down. Easy does it, buddy. Fills him in on what happened with her and like vice versa. And then we do finally get a spicy scene. They're like, all this pent up sexual energy. Gotta go, go, go. And they do. And it's sexy. Thank you very much. So then Poppy and Castile are like, let's go back to our pillow talk now. And they're talking about the prophecy and the bringer of death and destruction, or bone and ash. And Castile has like a strange sensation reverberating throughout his blood and bones. They both think it's Colas.
And I'm like, Castile, your body's like
Honey.
literally telling you something.
Yes, like the signs are here. Like, look in the mirror. See these things on your face. Can you see them? I don't know. So, but then it's cute when Castile's like, oh, by the way, we can do this. And like starts talking to her telepathically. And she's like, what? This is fun. And so I'm like, oh, that's a cute little moment. I like that for them. But what's interesting is that Castile has only been able to do this with Poppy and Kieran, not with any of the other Wolven. Which again, kind of now like leads us to believe it doesn't really have anything to do with the primal notum, but it's like a joining notum.
Yep. So then
Joined at the
Kieran
mines.
joined at the mines and other places, hopefully again in a book.
And other places. Yes.
So then Kieran comes to see Poppy and he's displaying a significant amount of emotion, which is very unlike him, right? He's usually like calm and collected. He is pretty shocked to learn that he's a primal god of life. He also
And he's
shares
like,
that, wait, what? I'm like, also,
Hmm?
where have you been, Kieran? Like, did you not pick up on that sooner?
No,
Like,
right? No. No.
he also shares that he felt something powerful happen the day before and thought he felt Poppy awake, but there was something that kept deterring him from coming to see her. Like, I just imagine him, he's like walking down the hallway towards a room and he's like, oh, maybe I should go get breakfast. Oh,
Go over there.
no, I'll go outside and mow the grass. Kind of like, when you tell your husband people are coming over in a couple of hours, you need him to do two things, and he has to do like 95 things that are completely unrelated to anything that
Mhm.
needs to get done.
Yeah,
That's
he's
what I
like, I
felt like
gotta
was
go clean
happening.
the gutters. And you're like,
No one's gonna
no,
check the gutter. No, can you just take out the trash? After I mow the yard and edge, no one cares.
no, no.
Like,
Please
that's
help
what
me
I felt
pick up
like.
all the children's toys.
Correct. Oh, I'll go change the oil in the car. Do you need to do that now? No.
You
So
were
Poppy,
unwise.
you were unwise. Poppy and Castile catch Kieran up on, the big things that have happened since she awoke. Poppy also tries to ask Kieran about what's going on with him and Castile since things seem odd between them, and he plays it off as nothing. Although Poppy knows that Castile is hiding something, and Kieran is willing to lie about it. So then Kieran and Poppy are alone, and they continue to catch up. We learn a ton of initial information. Poppy has a mix of fondness and sorrow at the mention of Etty's name. So we've heard her say she's weird, odd, fondness, sorrow. Her foresight tells her that Etty's is a primal god of war and accord, and his court is Vath. When
Bethy?
Kieran, Vathi? Yeah.
Yeah.
When Kieran says Seti's name, Poppy immediately knows that it's Etty's Velum, or his like will or essence, and that Seti is Etty's blood seed, which I have talked about for so freaking long. So I did scream out loud with that. I
Mm-hmm.
was like,
Yes.
"It is his horse." Huh.
I was so happy for you when I got to that. I was like, oh, Stephanie's very thrilled at
I'm
this
very
revelation.
thrilled at this. Poppy
Yes.
believes that Etty's must have abdicated his throne and given it to Theon, which we know is what happened. Kieran shares that Castile acquired Seti after visiting Elon's herd with Valen, Kieran, and Malik, but Elon was long gone by that point. And that's the phrase that's used, long gone. Not Elon died.
Where is he?
Well, he's in the Elysium asleep, but like,
I mean, yeah,
how
but
did he
still,
get
it's
back?
like,
Like, huh?
how did he get back there?
Seti was a coal alone in the field and started following Castile around. And then Poppy has a feeling that Seti must be Etty's bloodsteed, even though it doesn't make any sense. She's like, I don't understand how any of this is occurring.
Yeah, she's like, I
And
can't explain it, but I just know it's true.
and this is also when I then started going, I need to go back to every hawk reference that's ever happened in the Blood Nash series when Poppy saw a hawk, because I'm 95% positive that was also Etty's like Cora looking over her, which is like cool and also slightly creepy. There's like a fine line between creepy and cool, because I'm just like, if you're watching over me to protect me, like when I'm in a place I shouldn't be, cool. But like, you're not watching over me while I'm doing other things, right?
Right? Yeah, like, well, I'm having
Right?
sex, you're not doing
Like, please
that. When the
don't.
joining happens, you're not there, right?
You weren't like floating around, like your hawk wasn't like in the woods then, was it?
He's just like, do. Oh, joining. Oh, joining. Oh, fly over here.
Or maybe like,
Oh,
oh,
maybe nice to
joining.
watch. Hey, fly a little closer. What's going on? I don't know why the wings are here. Poppy, Castile, and Kieran are talking strategy for dealing with the Ascended, because they still have to deal with all that shit. They're like, okay, where are we going to station the troops, etc. And Poppy agrees with their approach, but she has a vague feeling of unease about it. So this feeling seems to arise when talking about specifically General Aylard, but it could be about the entire strategy, honestly. Feels like an important breadcrumb here that is gonna matter in the next book somehow. Just gotta be. Like, she has strong feelings, like the Videntia, like something's off here. Like, usually her gut is right. So we'll
Yeah.
see. Poppy does agree that the Ascended need to be dealt with, but wants to ensure that like no one else suffers that same fate. And she wants to make sure that three of them can do it quietly so that no one has to take the marks of killing them. So basically, at this point, she's like, yeah, we should probably kill all the Ascended. Like, hasn't really found out about the whole Unbound thing yet, but she's just like, we gotta do something. We can't let Colas continue like defeating off of them, basically. But again, she's like, we need to do it, the three of us. I don't want anyone else killing them. Like, it's our souls need to bear the deaths of the Ascended. So then, Poppy tells Kieran and Castile about the Ere and about how they believe that Colas wants to become the true primal of life and death. Yay! And, oh, by the way, he can only do that by taking her essence, which Castile starts to lose his shit. He does not like the idea of that. Touch her and die starts to spark inside of him. Poppy sees like patterns starting to like appear underneath his skin, look very similar to the patterns that she saw on the ancients. And then all of a sudden, black ravens fly into the chamber, and Castile seems completely unaware of any of this happening all around him. He's just talking about Colas, and he's like, he will never lay a hand on my Poppy. Like, he's never going to get you. And his voice changes and sounds like death and ruin. And Poppy starts to smell like damp soil and moss. And then Castile kisses her, and she tastes bone and ash. Ruin. And the kiss apparently works to help calm Castile down. But Poppy's like, what the fuck was that? This is not normal. This is weird.
This is weird. All I thought was when all these ravens are flying in, I'm like, I hope none of them shit on your head.
Right? Yeah, I'm like, ew.
That was my first thought.
Poke your eyes out. It's like cue the scene from the birds and they come in, you know. Yucky. So they get Castile to calm down, and Karen's just like, what the fuck was that? Like,
that was weird.
Not good. This is not normal, man. This is not normal. They're like, we're not going to talk about this right now. And Poppy's like, okay, we need to create a shadow council. Like, woo, shadow council. Hey, go team. Where basically the three of them are in it, plus Delano, plus Emil, Niall, Vanetta, and Malik. I'm like, cool. Go team, go.
Hope they're shirts.
I hope they're shirts. Yes.
So when the topic changes about what's about Colas, Castile feels pretty confident that Colas won't stop at seizing control of the mortal realm. And Poppy agrees that he would want control over mortals and gods and could cross the primal veil. That sounds horrible.
That'd be bad.
It also is mentioned how Colas can capture souls as the true primal of death and keep them in a state of limbo, trapped between life and death. Another breadcrumb for the comment made later in the book by Lady Holly about how no one truly dies anymore. And to this whole idea of around like them taking from Castile, right? So I immediately started thinking, where are the souls of Valen, Delano, Hissa, etc., and everyone that dies at the end? So next, Reaver comes to see Poppy, and Castile doesn't like it when Reaver refers to her as Poppy instead of Mialesa. And I was like, I mean, can he call her Poppy? And Reaver clarifies, right, that Sarah is the queen since she's still awake. But that doesn't mean the Draken don't still serve Poppy. That would only change if Sarah summoned them. And that would only happen if Nektos has fallen. And I'm like, this feels like
shit would happen.
Right. And I'm like, this feels like a breadcrumb for something that might happen in the next book. And it is absolutely unacceptable. A couple of reasons.
Do not tell me this. Don't put that in the universe.
We don't kill drakens. No. Dragons. No. We don't kill wolven. We've already lost a wolven in this book. We lost 2 of them. We lost the marshmallow. And you're talking about like how Sarah would summon them if Nektos has fallen. And I'm just like, that sounds really fucking bad. And she can also summon the wolven.
So Poppy's gonna have nobody?
But sure, defeat Colas. I'm like, do we not remember she's like 19, 20 at this point? I don't even know if a year has passed since all of this started.
It's like 6 months, probably. Whew.
Jesus, can we leave this? Can we give a girl a break?
Give her a break, okay? Like, she didn't even get a chance to go on a honeymoon. Like,
no.
Like, her honeymoon, her vacation was to New York and saw it to get destroyed.
I was going to say, her honeymoon was fucking in the carriage.
Yeah, right? Woo! But that was a good one.
That was a good one.
Okay. Now Castile and Poppy shadow step, they figured it out, to Ironspire, where they have found Jadis. And Reaver's like, you need to come with me. Please help me wake her up. I'm like, okay, we got you. So they're at Ironspire. And while they're there, Poppy notices how all of these buildings there look very similar. Like all the Iron Spire stuff like looks similar to what she saw on the continents, basically. She's like, that looks like one of those skyscrapers, but she doesn't know what that word is. Yeah. And then there's also like a dozen or so statues that are there, and they're like 8 feet tall with shields shaped like teardrops against their chest, and the swords are pointing towards the ground. Very important to note. Shield on the chest, swords at the ground. Interesting. The statues are carved from limonite, which is like similar to limestone, but it has like an appearance of moonstone, so it's very pretty. And it's known to be used in the burial rites of royalty from long gone kingdoms. And the faces of these statues are devoid of any features, while everyone else on them, like everything else on them, is incredibly detailed. So, like, face is very plain, can't tell. Everything else, super, super detailed. What does this mean? And then they see that there are some carved markings on the walls that are very similar to the ones that she remembers seeing where Iris was kept. And then she has like an image of Leopold pop in her mind at that very moment. And I'm like, that's a confirmation. It's got to be that Iris and Leopold are the same person, because she's thinking of that and then sees Leopold. It's like, ding,
but
ding,
she's
ding,
not
ding.
connected the dots. I'm like, girlfriend,
No.
wake up.
Yeah. I feel like that's like her Videntia silently being like, hello,
Hello.
there you go.
Like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
No. You can lead a poppy to a vision, but not make her realize it. So they find Jadis, who is entombed, and she's like this like tiny little like rock thing, but they can tell like it used to be her. And she's very, very small in this state. And that pretty much makes it very evident that she was very, very weakened to even succumb to this whole thing in general. And that immediately makes Poppy furious again at Isbitch. She's like, I wish I could kill her all over again for what she did to Jadis. And I'm like,
just wake up.
I should mention that. And Poppy sees that there's like chains around Jadis's neck and like around her body. And like Reaver said, he's like, I couldn't break them. I was afraid I was going to accidentally hurt her. Like I didn't even want to try. And Poppy's like, don't worry, I got it. And she's able to easily break them. So we're like, okay, that's good. That's a good step. And then Poppy tries to wake Jadis by touching her, similar to what she did to Nektas. And while she's like touching her, like trying to like pour her ether into her, Reaver is just there, just like begging Jadis to wake up. He's like, please, please wake up. Like, I'm so sorry for everything. Just like sorrow is like overwhelming him. And makes us think there's more to the story about what happened between Jadis and Reaver that we know yet. So, TBD. And unfortunately, Poppy is unable to awake Jadis. Nothing happens at all. And Reaver's just like, it's okay. It's okay, Poppy. But she's like distraught because she wanted to be able to do this. She's like, why can't I do this? Why did this not happen? Yeah. And I was like, is she going to wake up? Are they just giving us suspense here? And it's like, no, she doesn't wake up. And like they leave and Reaver's just stayed behind with Jadis. And you're like,
I know. So when they're back at Wayfair Castle, Castile makes it clear to Kieran that he hasn't told Poppy about what happened between them, and that he knows about the promise that Kieran made to Poppy. And Kieran's like, well, if you thought about why Poppy asked me to make that promise and, and not you. And Castile's just like, fuck off, and threatens to kick his ass. Because, sorry, Kieran was so frustrating to me in this book. I was less frustrated. I know some people were frustrated by Castile. I was not frustrated by his behavior. I thought like it felt like that's what was meant to happen. Kieran's the one that I'm like, fucking help your friends. So
yeah.
Kieran continues to push about how Poppy will notice it, saying she's already asking questions about what's going on with them. But Kieran agrees not to say anything for now, but his restraint only goes so far. And he's like challenges, how will Poppy feel once she finds out that Castile's been keeping it from her? And I'm like, Kieran, how will she find out once she finds out you've been keeping it from her?
Right? It goes both ways.
It goes both ways. And then Kieran mentions how he won't let Castile do this to her, to us, or himself. And I'm like, So then Poppy's alone in her room. She falls asleep on the bed, and she has this weird encounter that she thinks is a nightmare. It involves her feeling... Hold on. She feels like lips pressed against her, fingertips down her throat, a lower, suffocating, like heaviness, like a fog forcing her eyes closed, a cold, heavy presence against her back, and hears, I've always been with you. And then she wakes up from this nightmare and her robe is unbuttoned. And I'm like, are we sexually assaulting people with our essence now? Fucking
Ew.
Colas. Ugh. So
Ugh.
she does what I think is really common when you've been in a traumatic situation like that. Like you try and convince yourself like it didn't really happen that way or it wasn't as bad. Like I think sometimes like to protect yourself. And so she's like, "Oh, it was just a nightmare." And I'm like, "It was not a fucking nightmare." And then she goes to take a bath and she closes the door and then it's fine pushed half open. I'm like, and then that's when she starts to realize, is this Colas as well? And then while Poppy's in the bath, Kieran stops by, which is very reminiscent of From Blood and Ash when Kieran saw Poppy in the bathtub for the first time. And it's a really interesting encounter because she gets a little like self conscious, and Kieran's like, it's not like I haven't seen this before. And I'm like, yes, but also that doesn't give you like full right to come in the bathroom while I'm naked. Like, I mean, consent one time is not permanent consent, people.
True.
And then he mentions how there are no expectations and the joining was intense and they haven't had a chance to talk about what it means. And he comments how they can easily feel what the other is experiencing now that their hearts move in the same beat. So, Kieran, I know you say there's no expectations, but I think you have expectations. Like I think
I think you
things
love
for
her.
I think you love her and I think things have significantly changed for you as a result of the joining. And I think you were doing a really shitty job at communicating those feelings.
Yep.
And I'm just
Yep.
like, I just would like for you to adult. He is
Yes.
very
Adult, please.
emotionally stunted. Like
Mm-hmm.
Castile needs to work on maybe his displays of emotion, right? Like we could rein some of that in. But I feel like Kieran is keeping all of this in, and I feel like he's going to explode in the next book.
Yeah, it's gonna be
I
bad for him.
I think it's be bad for
It's gonna be bad.
everyone. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So then, while they're having this chat, Poppy notices that there's some embroidery on Kieran's tunic that was added by Niall, whatever that guy's
I
name
think
is.
Neil.
And Neil, yeah. And it looks very similar to the marks that she has seen on the ancients and also on Castile. And so this is mentioned multiple times when Neil sew these designs on various items of their clothing. Like, Neil, what do you know? What do you know about them? What do you know? How do you know this? How do you know what those things look like? Very interesting. What does this really mean? And so Poppy's instinct then tells her a few important facts, such as like they probably couldn't strongly sense Colus's Vela, but they would have a vague feeling of like an unease. Some gods from the court of Lotho can actually mask their essence, and these are the gods that changelings descended from. So it's like, did Colus kind of have a way to do that too? Maybe.
No, I think it's a little separate. I think there's like you can't sense his will or his essence, and then I think she also is like, oh, there's someone else that you could do this too.
Oh yeah.
And so
Kieran,
and so
somebody in your family maybe,
right?
but we don't know.
Like who
We don't
else
know
can
too
do
much.
this? Like I maybe
Yes.
start to go, is this a breadcrumb? Because there are more gods out there that we don't know because they can mask their essence. So I'm like, who said they were changelings or had changelings in their bloodline?
We don't know yet. Yet. We have suspicions though. And so Poppy's Videntia then tells her that there's a mature primal that can carry the embers of true life, death, or both, and they can kill another primal. So, but it refuses to answer her question about if that applies to Kieran or Castile. So she's like, okay, it won't tell me exactly like how I can kill a primal, other than like if they can kill it too. It's kind of confusing. Her Videntia like sometimes answers her, sometimes it doesn't. Who knows? Like, there's got to be another way to kill a primal. Please tell me it won't do it. But it makes us question if that's because, like, her being Satoria reborn or something else, like, doesn't, like, maybe is that love? Because we know from, like, Flesh and Fire series that, like, love can kill a primal. So is that part of it? Who knows? We'll find out. We'll find out. So then Delano comes to see Poppy, and she's so happy to see him, and like it's just a great reunion. And it's interesting to think that like the agony and horror of watching Delano die, protecting her, is what caused her to go into the Ascension. What's going to happen when she finds out he dies at the end of the book? Like, how is she going to react to that? It's not going to be good. It's going to be real bad. And then Emil also stops by, and both Castile and Delano growl at him when he approaches Poppy. Which, okay, that's not weird for Castile to, like, not be thrilled about Emil being around, but it's definitely new behavior for Delano. I'm like, what does this mean? Can Emil not be trusted anymore? Has he never been able to be trusted? Emil comes with bad news about an incident that happened in Stonehill. And we're like, great.
Great.
What the fuck happened in Stonehill?
Can someone come with good news? For once?
Right? Yeah, for once.
No.
Great.
Okay, let's talk about the crazy shit that happened in Stonehill. So Castile and Poppy decide not to shadow step, but to use Seti, and Poppy can sense the essence in Seti when she sees him again, but neither Kieran or Castile can feel it. She assumes, that Seti chose to appear as a cult when Castile found him. Only Elon and Etis would know how or why. When they start to get closer, the air feels very thick and heavy, similar to how it did when they were in the Lux after Colas drained the Ascended. So we know Colas is back. All of the glass domes in the impacted homes are blown out, very similar to what we saw before. Poppy can feel death in the air, meaning Colas. Malik is the one who found them and got Neil. There are approximately 50 dead between two blocks. The houses smell like stale lilacs, and Delano freezes with his ears pinned back, a pretty ominous warning sign. So this is like the second time we've seen the Wolven have a very negative reaction to anything tied to Colas using his will. Each person, including the children, had slit their own throats with no sign of a struggle. It was a really hard scene to read.
And then really hard.
It was really hard.
And they have like a weird smile.
Yeah, like they're happy. It's like a creepy happy. So that's when Poppy realizes it was Colas's will that led to their death. So similar to what we saw, right? Kind of, we talked about this in the beginning, where, let me in, I'll take away all of your pain and suffering. He's done the same thing to them. So Poppy tells Castile and Kieran how Colas uses powers to root out her fears and make her relive those moments of pain, and how he could give her peace if she let him in. It's almost like a compulsion, like a haunting song. Very similar to what we see in Born of Blood and Ash when gods were jumping off from their death. Because of the song, we see that at the end of this book. And then Castile believes Colas did this to prove to them what he's capable of. It's similar to what Castile used to do as the Dark One. Small attacks. I'm like, 50 people dead is not a small attack. To serve as a reminder, it's a pretty big attack, that even when things are quiet, the rebellion wasn't dead. Poppy knows from her Videntia that Colas can't use this compulsion against Atlanteans, but he can use it against the Wolven. Another breadcrumb. It could also be used against Revenants and the Ascended, but not Millie because she's different. When I'm like, well, that means it can't fucking be used against Column either. Great. Poppy believes...
And not Tawny.
And not... Probably not. Assuming she doesn't have a soul. If that's accurate.
Yeah.
Poppy believes the unease she felt earlier was likely an indication this was happening and feels bad about not being able to stop it. And I'm like... It also could have been because you felt unease because you were being sexually assaulted by Colas's will too. Like,
yeah,
girl, like also, you were not responsible for everything.
At the same time,
potentially.
I think so. Like, did he do that first and then go after these people when he got like denied from her?
Ugh, gross.
Ugh.
I don't know.
Or did he do that first and then was like, "I'm gonna let you know my presence was here"?
I don't know.
Possible. Either way,
it's just all gross.
Yucky.
Very ugh.
Gross.
Poppy tells Malik she forgives him for what happened in Lockswood, although Malik doesn't feel like he deserves her forgiveness since he betrayed Cora. And then he mentions how there's something going on with Kieran and Castile. He's like, what's with the two? What's going on?
What's going on with these guys? Yeah, they're not acting normal. This is weird. But you know, it's like, okay, yeah, other people are sensing it. Like, there is something going on. Like, she just realizes, like, yeah, these guys are trying to fake me out, make me think nothing's happening, but something's happening. And so then Poppy and Castile realize that the area that they're in looks very familiar to them. And they're like, wait a second. This is where Claritza and Blas lived, the people from the War of Two Queens, the ones that helped them escape. And like, this is the part of town that Poppy had destroyed in her anger after Isbeth provoked her by killing them, by killing her friends. And so this means Colas intentionally picked this area, knowing their ties. And he must have only known this thanks to fucking Callum, because that's the guy that appeared. Who, by the way, Callum is still missing. So we're like, did Callum tell you this? Or is there somebody else sharing information? Since we know Callum isn't with Colas at the moment, and he's also not with him at the end of the book. Was Callum with him earlier? Possibly, yes. But again, this maybe has something to do with the mole. Someone else is telling information that Colas is using. So they are getting ready to leave the area when Neil comes in and says, something is happening, something really fucking creepy, and you guys need to come right now. Turns out the bodies are decaying very, very quickly, which is not normal. Like, what's even more not normal? Arms and legs start twitching. And you're like, what? Why? Why is that happening? Please stop.
I like it.
And then one of the dead little girls opens her eyes and latches her teeth onto Malik on his arm. And he's just like, what the fuck?
Like, get it off me, get it off.
Yeah, get it off. Turns out they are just reanimated corpses. So like, kind of like zombies pretty much. And like, they're called gruels, which I think we've seen these before, right? I'm sure we saw them before. They're just like yucky, super yucky. And they're used in the abyss to feast on the flesh. So literally a zombie. More so than a craven. I feel like just even worse. Because they just eats the flesh. And it literally takes a chunk out of Malik's arm. And he's just like, and looks at the thing and it's just like
still chewing it.
And swallows it. And he's just like, oh, that's not right. That is so not right. And they're like, okay, well, we got to get rid of this. And the only way to kill them is by severing the spinal cord and destroying the brain, much like a zombie. So now everybody has to work and fight and kill all of these gruels. And of course, it is very traumatizing because some of them are young children. And Castile's just like, listen, Poppy, just don't even think of them as that. Like, they are long gone. Let's turn this to a game. Like, I bet I can kill more of them than you. Like, it's a little competition. And she's just like, okay, like, I guess this will help me like compartmentalize this a little bit. And then she sees that the gruels are actually going after Castile's flesh and everybody else's, but not hers. Nobody is touching her. Not really. And then one of the gruels is controlled by Colas and tells Poppy, Solis, I'll be seeing you soon. And she's like, oh, hell no. And like, you know, it's yucky. And they're like jumping from like the rooftops and like scurrying after people. And like, they're fast. They're fast motherfuckers.
I did not like this.
No, thank you. No, thank you. It's like Dawn of the Dead. I'm like, nope, I'm gone.
I would say this is up there with the Dead Bones clan for me.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Okay. So afterwards, Castile starts to realize that Colas may have had some type of twisted obsession with Poppy that is more than just wanting her essence. Perhaps just a little bit smidge. He has this feeling that the obsession is older than just watching Poppy grow up through the eyes of the Ascended, and he is committed to destroying Colas, recognizing that while Colas may be the true Primal of Death, he is a Dominion Primal of Death whose bloodline has descended from destruction and war. Yeah. Later, Castile finds Poppy awake in the middle of the night, looking out at the windows of the Cliffs of Sorrow. She mentions how she can almost see herself there, which we know is about Satoria. And then when Castile tries to take Poppy back to bed, she doesn't even realize she wasn't in bed. And then we also learned she would often fall out of bed when she was young after having a nightmare. And Castile starts to realize that all of this might have been tied to Colas. Fucking hate Colas.
So creepy. Fucking Colas. Okay. But now it's time for them to meet with the generals. They're like, let's get down to business to defeat the Colas. So most of them have these complete looks of awe and disbelief when they see Poppy, Castile, and Kieran walking into the room because they just got this like ether just like oozing off of them basically. And like everybody can sense it. They're like, oh shit, like look who just walked in. Like, damn. And General Aylard looks at them with unease and an unnecessary amount of distrust. I'm like, I also don't trust you. So they also have like similar but kind of like less emotions present with like Gala, Lasser, and Lord Murin. People, whatever. But then we meet Helena and Alaric, who are both mortals, and they are apparently the unofficial leaders of the dissenters. And we're like, oh yeah, those guys still exist. That's right.
You're back.
They're here. Kind of forgot about them for a while, to be honest. I was like, oh yeah, dissenters. Okay, cool. So then Poppy, Kieran, and Castile decide to tell everybody the truth about Colas. Because they're just like, you know what? I think it's time. People need to know. There's more than just the blood crown. There's a Colas dude. And there's a lot of questions. Because everyone's like, wait, what?
Excuse me?
What?
Huh?
We were trying to wrap our minds around the whole, like, Isbitch ascended people being vampires. And now you're telling me there's, like, a god of death crawling around, like, as a spirit and, like, killing people. Okay, cool. This is normal. Can I leave this realm? Can I go to a different realm, please?
I'd like to go to the continents.
Yes.
Not really.
They don't exist anymore. Oh, yeah, right now. And so Sven here mentions there are some references to primal magic associated with the true death in some old journals. He's like, oh, but those are back in Atlantia, so you're going to have to go find those. Cool. Thank you very much for that useful information. He's like, oh, but we did actually find a vault that was beneath the Shadow Temple. And like, maybe they have some records in there. So maybe you don't have to go all the way to Atlantia. You can just go down there and check it out. He and Perry agreed to do it because Perry can read Old Atlantean. Why is that, Perry? Why can you read Old Atlantean? And why are you volunteering?
And why do you know there's a vault underneath the Shadow Temple?
Yeah.
Like, how did you just stumble across that?
Oh, hey, look, guys, there's that thing I totally didn't know existed, and now I'm telling you about. Okay, sure. Meanwhile, the belief that everyone here has is that Colas is in Pensdirth. Like, once they've realized what a Colas is, they're like, all right, well, that dude, that thing must be in Pensdirth because there's, like, a lot of, like, shit going down there. And, like, we're still waiting for our collection of troops to even come back and tell us what they've learned. We're just like, it's been quiet. Too quiet. There's problems. Poppy believes that they should treat Colas similar to how they treated Isbeth and the Blood Crown. Assume that we are basically dealing with a very unpredictable primal of death who was likely very, very cray-cray. Yes, this is a good assumption to make. He is a neurotic, crazy person.
Great. You should also listen to your own advice, Poppy, because I feel like later you do not.
Yes. It's like, don't forget, he is Delulu. And so Aylard is like, well, maybe we should negotiate. Like, what does he want? Like, let's just try and get peace. It's a better option than destruction. And Sven is like, oh, yeah, we should do that. That's totally a great idea. And Poppy's like, hold the phone.
Like, all I thought was, this is why we don't negotiate with terrorists. Like, what?
No. No. Bad idea.
And you're a general of the army?
Yeah, I'm like, no. She's like, Poppy's like, sit down, everybody. Let me tell you what Colas wants. He wants the ether that is inside of me. And it's like, he literally wants to, like, take over the world. So there's no compromise for him. That's it. Do you want to give him that? Do you want to give this evil guy that power? I don't think so. So let's scrap that plan. He's like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. That's good to me. It's like, no, sit down, Aylard. Sit down. And basically, Poppy's like, so because he wants this, that means he's not going to use his will against me to get it. But everybody else in this chamber, you are all fair game. He is going to probably use you and hurt you. So no one and no army is going to ever be able to get close to Colas. He's just going to kill you in 2 seconds, make you slit your own throat, basically. And Poppy's like, I should go to Pensdirth and see Colas alone. Castile's like, what? Oh, hell no. He's like, honey, you are not. And he screams for everybody to get the fuck out. And she's like, uh-oh, what'd I do?
She poked the bear.
So
The Cape Cat.
she poked the bear. He didn't like that. So Castile and Kieran get everybody out. And they both sit Poppy down and they're like, this is a terrible idea. This is stupid. What the hell are you thinking? And Castile isn't even trying to like hold her back. He's just like, no, like we're going to all three go together. Like you can go, but we're going with you. There's no way you're going by yourself. No. And he reminds Poppy, he's like, I know what happens when you fight alone and you're going to fail. Like you need us there. Which I get from her perspective that she's like, I don't need no man. I can take care of myself. But also it's like, but maybe you should be as a team. Maybe
I think she's also like, Colas loves me.
right? She's
He
like,
won't
he
hurt me.
Bitch, that's all he wants to do. That's all he wants to do. All he
Right?
wants to do is hurt you.
Like it's interesting because
Relationship.
I feel like she does have, while she is not like been around or seen Colas like her whole life, obviously she's been impacted by the things he's said and done to her, and then being Satori Reborn, she has that history as well. It's almost like she kind of has this, like you see with anyone in an abusive relationship, like, oh, it'll get better. Oh, he won't do this. And I'm just like, girl, how many times do you have to show you he's bad?
He's a
Like,
bad boy. The limit does not exist. He will hurt you.
no.
He's just waiting for the right time to hurt you.
Correct.
Yep. And so Castile's like, let's wait. Let's receive some word back from Pensdirth. Let's try and get as much information as possible. And then all three of us go. And Poppy's like, no, I just want to shadow step right now into the city and just like scout things out. And then I'll come right back. And again, bad idea because Colas is going to sense you the second that you get in there. And she's like, oh, he won't. It'll be fine. And I won't even go to Pensdirth. I'm just going to go near it and like find out. And he's like, it's a bad idea. Don't do this. Don't do this. Please don't do this. I'm begging you.
So next, Castile and Poppy have an argument about how Castile doesn't think Poppy trusts him after she asks him again what's going on with him and Kieran. And he basically reiterates nothing, but mentions he knows she doesn't believe that. Castile says there's only
I wish he would just say it. Like, just,
I know.
That's the prime moment. Like, tell her now.
I think the problem is his self-confidence in their relationship has really been shaken. And I feel like he needs her to tell him the truth. Like he needs to know that she trusts him to tell him. And every time he kind of gives her an opportunity to do so and she doesn't, I feel like it just confirms for him what he, like the bad, like mental talk he's already doing. And he says that there's only a few things he hasn't been forthcoming about. Perhaps one was your identity in the first book. But he questions if she can say the same. And we know this fight's clearly about the promise, right? That Kieran made to Poppy and his insecurities. But Poppy is like completely clueless about all of this. And then
like,
Tawny,
what the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly. Like, no, it's fine. And then Tawny shows up and Poppy finally agrees to see her. So previously in the book, Poppy has gotten a sense of unease whenever Tawny was mentioned. And as soon as Poppy sees Tawny, she realizes why she felt so uneasy. It's about what Poppy had done to Tawny. And I was like, great. What did we do to Tawny? So others can sense a wrongness in Tawny because it goes against the fundamental balance of life and death. Once again, the fucking balance. She smells of stale lilacs. Okay. Poppy can sense zero emotions from her. Castile had originally summoned Tawny while Poppy was in stasis, hoping it would help Poppy wake up. But Tawny only ended up annoying Castile. Tawny felt Poppy both times she woke up and knew when Poppy had left the realm. Poppy also asked Tawny about what Victor said about never seeing Leopold and being wrong about him. And Tawny's like, I never met Leopold. But maybe it's because he's not a victor. And I'm like, Tawny, I have a I feel like it's like, remember how Poppy knew Sarah's name, and she's like, I don't know the Queen of the Gods' name. Like, I don't know the Primal of Life's name. And then she realizes in the War of Two Queens that she's known this entire time. I feel like we're gonna have a
Hmm.
moment in the next book about for Tawny, where she's like, oh yeah, this thing. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's your dad. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then Tawny mentions that she has a feeling Miss Willa said something, but she can't remember what. And I'm like, that feels important. When did you see Miss Willa? Like, obviously she helped you. Like, what did she tell you? We need to know those things. And
Yes, we
then
do.
Poppy asked Tawny if she's sensitive to light because she hasn't. And she's like, no. And I'm like, oh no.
Thing. So then once Tawny leaves, Poppy tells Castile about how Colas and Nyctos can capture souls, and there are different ways to do it. Cool. It can be done with a god, but she doesn't think it's meant to be used on a mortal. So Poppy confesses then that she believes that she took Tawny's soul. And she's like, I don't know if it happened when I was trying to heal Tawny or if like just the essence of like death did it, like took it. She's like, I don't know how, but it happened. And like, I can't release Tawny's soul because now she has ascended and her soul is lost. So
That
it's
sounds
like,
horrible.
this is bad. This is not good. So they both agree, like, Poppy needs to tell Tawny, like, hey, by the way, she accidentally stole your soul. She's a soul eater. Oopsies.
Oopsies, which is what
But
Alistair is worried about, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's like, that's not good. It's not
That's
good at
not
all.
great.
It's like, but before we do that, maybe let's check with Sven and Miss Willa to see if there's anything that we can do about it before we tell her. Like, before we tell her this bad news, let's see if we can fix anything at all. Like, that's a good strategy. We should do that. Okay. Let Tawny live in her little bubble right now. Don't pop it just yet, all right? Tawny's a sweetheart. So then later, Poppy is staring at the cliffs of sorrow again in the middle of the night. And this time when Castile like wakes up and sees her and he approaches her, she's just like, take me. Take me now. But she's like in a weird daze where he's like, it's Poppy, but it's also like not really Poppy. And they fuck up against the like window
Glass.
looking out. Yeah. And so it's just like, okay, so she wants to get fucked while she's looking at the cliffs of sorrow? He's like, I mean, I won't question it because I'm horny, so I'll do it. Okay. It's a kink she's got, I guess. And so that happens. And then we get a scene between Neil and Poppy where he is hemming some of her clothes. And we learned that his mom actually taught him how to sew when he was young. And he was just like, oh yeah, I just kind of like picked this up when I was younger. And like, I'm just choosing these little designs based on something that I saw a long time ago, like beneath the garrison at the old tombs in Ajaya. And it's like, what is that? What else is there? Is there something? Is that one of the places where like there's some ancients in the ground? Because it's got to be, because
Right?
those symbols are associated with ancients. Got to be an ancient there. And so he's just like, just sign this on, no big deal. She's like, okay, interesting. I'm gonna lock that little knowledge away for later. And then things get crazy again when Poppy, Castile, and Kieran all feel something very unnatural start to happen. Poppy shadow steps over to Kieran, with Kieran on the rise. Kieran does not like shadow stepping. He's just like, what the fuck was that? I feel dizzy. I feel sick. Stop it. And she's like, it was the quickest way for us to get here, okay? There's something weird going on. I sensed it over here. We gotta go. And he's just like, hold the phone.
I want,
You
I want
know?
to be like, Kieran, stop being a whiny bitch.
Right? Yeah. It's like, just take some Zofran. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Embrace the
And
power.
Castile, yeah, right. And Castile just like hops on over shadow stepping too, and he's like, "See, it doesn't bother me. I'm fine. No big
I'm
deal.
Castile.
I'm Castile. Look at me shadow step." Woo. But after they have been excited about shadow stepping, they look into the water and see that a ship has gone down in the bay, and there's something in the water, something around there, and they're just like, "Siren? What the fuck?" those are supposed to be extinct and like completely killed off from like before the war when like Sion went to sleep, who's like the god of the earth or not earth, the water and sky and all that stuff. And it's like, well, shit. Now that the gods are awake, they seem to be back. But there's something kind of weird about them. Something really weird. Maybe because they're like dead? Like, what the fuck? And so as they're like realizing, like, do my eyes lie to me? Like, is that a Syrian I'm seeing? The sunlight quickly vanishes with thick, heavy, inky clouds. And it's like, oh, this is doom and gloom. Something bad is about to happen. I don't like this. Poppy gets a sense of fear from the people that are down like the lower town area, causing her to suddenly become very overwhelmed by all of their emotions. And she mentions how it feels stronger than what she felt in the continents.
That seems really bad.
That seems bad because bad shit happened there. And she's like trying to like build this like mental wall to like block it all out because she's like, I cannot handle that right now. And they look out in the water and they see more boats are just being pulled under the water, almost disappearing with like nothing left behind. Just like
just gone.
Similar to what happened in the continents.
So people Poppy uses her ether to open the gates that way for a castle. It's pretty much chaos as people are trying to get in. She gets to safety. Poppy shadow steps back to the docks.
Stampede of people. It's like bad. They're like, oh.
And then she shadow steps back to the docks because that sounds like a great place to be when the water is violent. And then there are creepy seahorses made of bone and dull gray flesh with riders on them that look the same. No. So we have Siren. Zombie Siren. Zombie seahorse. So seahorses, like, no. Poppy realizes that only two beings can raise the dead like this: the true primal of life and the true primal of death. And she can't do it to this extent yet, which feels like a breadcrumb for the next book. Poppy knows it's Colas as well and lets Castile know that telepathically. Castile and Kieran are fighting the Siren with Malik, Delano, and Sage. The Siren and the Seahorse Riders are like everywhere in the city now. So like it is pure chaos. Poppy sees Colas like peeping at her through the creatures, like just jumping like, ugh. And
like their eyes change and she's like, there you are, Colas, I see you.
Right? And then it's like another one. And there is no way to defeat them all because they're everywhere with this fighting. So Poppy has to use her ether. When she uses her ether, she mentions becoming the primal power itself. Mist billows out of her with embers of silver. She sees the shadow of wings falling over the wharf, lightning in the sky, and it kills all the Siren. So I'm like, yes! Unfortunately, we're not done. Because then she feels something ancient and forgotten pulling itself from the seafloor. And I'm like, great. What is that? Something that once existed in the lakes of fire in the abyss. And the water starts to boil. It's a kraken, a creature with tentacles. And I was like, this feels like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
No.
I also had thought about Pirates of the Caribbean when like you see the Siren like crawling up the sides of the boats.
Yes. Oh.
You know, like they're just like they're just like zombie mermaids with like bones like crawling up the side and it's like pulling people under and
yeah, no thank you. And then if that's not bad enough, we get a kraken. And then the water starts to recede quickly, followed by a massive tsunami wave headed their way. And Poppy and Delano are right in the path of the wave, and she doesn't have enough ether left to shadow step them. But Delano refuses to leave her, and he's in his woven form, so he probably could have gotten away. And then Castile shadow steps with Kieran to Poppy and Delano, hoping he can take all of them with him. Malik is being dumb and racing towards them on a horse. All of them are about to be swallowed by the wave when Sion and Rahar show up to help them and stop the wave. And I was like, oh!
Kind of reminds me of like Elsa at the end of Frozen 2, where she just like comes out and goes like whoosh, and like the whole wave disappears in a way. And Rahar's like, sorry, I would have been here sooner, but we had some other stuff to deal with. And I'm like, thank you for the light banter. Funny. And Rahar then points out that Castile looks a lot like Kin. He's like, whoa, he was right. You do look a lot like him. He's like, what? You don't have time for this now.
Isn't that interesting how that keeps being mentioned?
Yes. Very, very interesting. And he also mentions that they have to refrain from really using the essence in the mortal realm because it can cause other issues. I'm like, okay, like what?
Great.
Like what?
Give
Balance.
me more
Has to be balance.
specific.
Yeah. And Rahar's like, since Kolis is the true primal of death, all who serve within the abyss technically serve him, which means there's more things to get to worry about in the future. Yay.
Great. Can I get a
Great.
list?
All the dead creepy crawly things, yeah, Kolis can make them do whatever he wants. Like,
All the worst things that ever existed in the world
yay.
are in the abyss, and now Kolos controls them because he's decided to be the true
Cool.
primal of death today.
Yes, yes. Today he
Great.
woke up and is like, I'm going to choose death. Yay. And Rahar basically sends along a message that Nyktos believes in this attack and that one of the attacks basically was a diversion and that this whole thing is a trap. And Rahar also realizes that, like, this is a trap. And Rahar takes off to help Scion anyway. And shortly thereafter, silver light just like erupts, and there's a scorching wave of power rippling through the air, causing windows to shatter, buildings to collapse. Again, it's like the Elsa magic, like the wave goes down and the ground begins to shake. And the draken, Aurelia, sends out a very mournful call. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, at least the Kraken is dealt with, and that's gone. But what else is gone?
The god has fallen. So next, Poppy and Karen work together to heal the injured people, but Poppy doesn't bring anyone back from the dead because she's like, okay, there's a cost of doing so. I'm not going to do that. She also realizes the attack on the lower town wasn't just a trap, but when Poppy was staring at the cliffs of sorrow and had Castile fuck her against the window, she knew Kolis was watching somehow, and the attack was a reaction to it.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like that also points back to like when his like Will was trying to like kiss Poppy, when in the bath and everything, and like she like shut him out. I think his reaction then was to go and kill all those people at Stonehill. So like her getting fucked up against a window in front of his face, he's like, oh, I don't like that. I'm gonna send a tidal wave and some dead Syrian your way.
But I'm also like, you don't love her.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't love her. You don't even like her. You're just being a
Exactly.
vindictive asshole. Stop it.
Stop it. But we do know where Kieran can heal people, so he is using his powers, which we've not really seen him use in this entire book so far. Poppy's exhausted from using her ether in the attack and healing everyone, so Castile is like, you need to go rest. We can't let you put yourself in stasis again. And there's just kind of like this funny point where everyone else kind of gangs up on her and they're like, no, like, you need to go rest. Like, even the people she's healed, they're like, you need to go rest. You don't look great. And then Poppy also tells Castile at this point that she believes that one of the primals who came to help them has died. And we know it's Rahar, which is really sad. But there was a promise that Castile made earlier, was that he would fuck Poppy, and he makes good on his promise. And he makes her touch herself while he does it. So that was way hot.
Yay, we like that. Thank you so much. And then that's unfortunately where we're going to stop for our first episode on the Primal of Blood and Bone. But you know, at least we left it somewhere juicy, and we'll get some spicy stuff. And in terms of what's next, join us next week as we dive into the spiciest book we've covered on this podcast. So we're taking a step out of Blood and Bone for just a half a second. We're going to talk about a contemporary romance. It's a hockey romance, so I like it. Thank you very much. Pucking Around by Emily Rath. And it is not pucking around. I mean, I thought the Never list was spicy. This is another realm. Pucking Around is another realm of spice. And you are so welcome. And it's so wonderful. And you're going to love it. Okay. And then after that, we'll be back with another massive deep dive episode on the remaining chapters of the Primal of Blood and Bone on November 5th. And then we will cover all of the unhinged theories and all of the spicy chapters and everything that we think is going to happen in the next book. And I cannot wait to hear all this, Stephanie. It's going to be amazing. Happy reading.
Happy reading. Thanks for listening to Late Night Reads. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Late Night Reads Podcast. And check out latenightreads.com for even more information about all the books we're reading. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. And share the show with your fellow book lovers.